This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest, the podcast which brings you reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema and instead went straight to DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming media. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me this week are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everybody.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year indeed. So we're going to kick off this episode with the DTV Digest Awards for 2020, where we're going to do a little review of all the films we've seen. Going to put them into top fives in various categories. So that's what we're going to be doing shortly. And then we're going to crack on with our main reviews, which this week are going to be, I'm going to talk about Vanguard, the latest Jackie Chan film a little bit. Then we're going to go to Thailand for Deliver Us from Evil, pop over to the Georgia slopes for Let It Snow, pop over to Russia for the Blackout, and then back to the good old USA for Robot Riot. Our short shot this week is a film called Burnt, and our DTV throwback is going to be Julia X. Now, everyone's chomping at the bit to talk about that one later on. So without any further ado, it's over to Rich. Let's crack on.
Yes, it's time for our annual DTV Awards. I think this is the fifth time we've done this? I'm not sure. We're taking a little bit of a different approach this time. We've each come up, the three of us have each come up with our own selections for what we feel were some of the best of what we covered last year during a sort of mammoth period of shows. We did 44 episodes and we covered 94 new features or recent features, 42 throwbacks, and 41 short films. So it took us a while to whittle through these to select some of our favorites because there was some damn good stuff in there, especially in the short films. I had particular trouble with that. So we're just gonna get straight on with our first section, which is we're gonna go for the Oldie But a Goodie Award, the best throwback, and we're gonna count down from our number fives, and we're gonna start with Steve.
Okie dokie, my number 5 was Silent Trigger.
Good choice. Interesting film. Russell Mulcahy, Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, don't forget as well, we are incorporating the punt rule. So if someone's got it higher up on their list, we'll punt and then talk about it when it comes to theirs. Good
point, Steve. No punts in this particular round at the moment, it seems. Nobody's stayed that one. Any particular comments you want to give about this Dolph Lundgren movie?
Yeah, it was a bit batshit crazy, but enjoyable, I mean, obviously, I've not watched as many as you guys because I came on later on in the year, but it was enjoyable. What's the nice to see that? What's the girl called in it again?
Oh, Gina Bellman.
Yes, yeah, nice to see her. Not really seen anything since coupling and stuff like that. So, just a little bit insane in parts, but yeah, decent film.
And your number 5, Mike?
Project Metal Beast.
Oh, yep. That was pretty cool. I remember us quite favourably reviewing that one. Taking a look at.
Absolutely, this was a lot of fun. A good sort of take on the sort of werewolf kind of thing. The sort of I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It had a sort of interesting, sort of cynical streak to it, which tickled my fancy a bit.
My number 5 is Vikingdom, which was a very strange Malaysian, heavily CGI'd English language feature featuring Craig Fairbrass with really long hair and a whole bunch of other people. Shot in 3D as well. Pretty mad enterprise, and quite standout. Oh, Dominic Purcell is the lead in that one. He was. So that was quite fun.
What I liked about that particular film, I mean, there is some really striking sort of artistic design going on in there as well, but it gave us one of those classic sort of mismatched couple sort kind of things with John Fu and Craig Fairbrass, which reminded me a lot of sort of Dennis Farina and Vinnie Jones in Snatch.
Oh yeah,
just this sort of unlikely pairing, which worked really well.
Yeah, you have to see it. I think it's just one of those, really sort of unusual mixtures of. I mean, it's got Thor with this bright red hair and stuff, and he's a bad guy and stuff. There's loads going on.
Yeah, literally loads going on now.
Steve, you're number 4.
The recent one, Sci-Fighters.
Mm-hmm. With Roddy Piper.
It's just for Roddy Piper. I thought it was great in it. Like I said, we had issues with it being a bit dark and slightly rapey and stuff like that, but I just thought he was phenomenal in it. I used to watch him as a kid growing up. I still think one of the best matches I saw was him and Bret Hart at WrestleMania. It was amazing, that fight. And he just comes across really, really well. I think he's great in it.
Yeah, he's a tough guy, but he's very much an everyman, isn't he? I think.
Yeah.
You can relate to him.
Yeah,
exactly.
He did put in a pretty decent sort of dramatic performance in that particular film as well.
And a hell of a jumper.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Mike, you're number 4.
PM Entertainment's The Sweeper.
Oh, some terrific stunt work in that film.
That's why it's on the list. Yeah, not so much for Thomas C. Howell's performance, but Jesus, the stunt work in that is absolutely top notch. It needs to be seen to be believed.
It's got more stunts in more stunts in the first scene, I think, than most films have in their running time. This is proper life on the line kind of stuff in this movie, including on a biplane in the sky. I'm going to go for my number 4. I've got Kurt Russell in Soldier.
Yeah. That's the one that is. It's a bit of a sleeper, that one, isn't it? Because everyone assumes it was a cinema movie, but no.
Yeah, at the time that it came out, it was the most high-profile direct-to-video movie, ever. It had bombed. It had bombed in the United States, and they just didn't want to put it in cinemas in the UK. So it was one of the first films we got on DVD. Because the format was quite new, and that would be the kind of film that you would have to wait quite a while to get hold of. And there it was. You could pick it up for I don't know, how much was the DVD back then? £15? I don't know. It was great. I watched it over and over and over again, and it's aged really well.
It has actually, it has aged really well. So you got Sean Pertwee in that one as well. And,
terrific cast.
Jason Scott Lee.
Jason Isaacs as well.
Jason Isaacs, it's top-notch film.
Gary
Definitely.
Busey.
Of course,
It's fantastic. I mean, Jason Scott Lee is he is so huge in that movie. I mean, he was pretty impressive looking when he played Bruce Lee in Dragon, but he really bulked up for this particular role. So he's got lots of muscle mass on him in it. I think everyone put such a huge amount into the movie that it's such a shame it didn't get that cinema exposure in the UK. But we get to highlight it as one of the greatest films probably of that period that came to DVD. Steve, you're number 3.
My number 3 is the Leah Thompson starring Exit Speed. It might put us on to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
another film with a good cast.
Yeah, really good cast. Just quite tense, quite fun. Very strange, obviously with the villains that don't say a single word. But yeah, it was just fun. Just fun, good laugh. Quite a strange film in a way. But yeah, it's just what's he called now? The copper.
Fred Ward.
Fred Ward, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, always good to see a bit of Fred Ward. Yeah.
Good choice.
Mike, you're number 3.
Prom Night 2. Hello, Mary Lou.
Punts.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm going to say my number 3 now, which is Shadow Fury. Remember this one?
I do. Yeah. This is the Oh, it's not the ninja one, is it? It's the one where he's like a robot ninja.
He's like a cloned ninja warrior. He was cloned by Pat Morita.
Yeah. He rescues the hooker with a heart thing, and he has that sort of running with the pimp and everything. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So some amazing explosions in that film.
Yeah, lots of explosions, lots of alpha stunts. Wire choreography and non-wire choreography as well.
Yeah.
Really fast-paced action, Hong Kong style, American buddy movie, sort of really wild, futuristic. It's crazy, really low budget, but they did a great job. And Taylor Lautner's first film appearance.
Oh yeah, that was it. Taylor Lautner has played the kid, didn't he? The younger version.
He grows up to be Bas Rutten.
So the only downside for that film is the fact that it's only available on YouTube.
Well, you can still pick it up on DVD.
All right.
The DVDs are, you could probably buy it, CX or Amazon or whatever. They are floating around. You can pick it up. You can get it quite cheap and stuff now. So,
I'll have to keep my eye out for it.
They're not quite rare that they charge a fortune, as far as I'm aware. I think you can pick it up for like £1 or whatever if you're lucky. If you can get into a CEX that's open,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But you can order them offline as well. But yeah, I think it's well worth checking out. It's good fun. Over to Steve for number 2.
Number 2 was Night of the Running Man. Great Scott Glenn performance. Absolutely just devastatingly evil and just... It's just such a bastard in it, But even Andrew McCarthy's quite good in it as well. And it was, again, quite dark in parts. But really well shot, really well done.
Yeah, because that was directed by Mark Lester again, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Lots of on-location stuff for Las Vegas and that, and also John Glover in that movie as well. Really good.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, he was good in it as well. Yeah.
And that weird soundtrack, which makes everything incredibly ultra dramatic. even when he's brushing his teeth, it's like, it's very funny. It's good. Yeah, good film.
Your number 2, please, Mike.
My number 2 is Retroactive.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was an old favourite. I've got it on Blu-ray now. That somebody pointed out that it was available from 88 Films, so I got the Blu-ray, which is really cool. But Jim Belushi's brilliant in that. Really, really good film.
Yeah, very well made, great looking. The cinematography is really good in it. The whole setup and the way the plot unfolds. I love a good time travel film, and that's really good. It's fun, sort of mapping out where everyone is. Every time it goes back, sort of where were these people? When this happened. So it works really well. My number 2 is a film that you introduced me to, Mike, which is Jugface, also called The Pit.
Yeah. Yeah, that missed my list, but there's a couple of films that I'm sure we'll sort of do a sort of what near misses there were, but yeah, that was sort of just missed my list. But yeah, I've gone for the films at the top of my list are basically the ones that I hadn't seen before that I was quite surprised by, because a lot of the films that we've covered have been my recommendations because because I like them so much anyway. You're curator of the DTV.
I've curated quite a lot of them, so I felt it only right to highlight one or two others that I hadn't heard of before. So yeah, Jugface has got it's a weird little horror movie set in the woods, essentially in a little community, like a cult. Are they crazy? Is it real? It's a bit like the sort of the Villages kind of thing, I suppose you could relate it to, but it's very different. It's not really like much you've seen before, I would say, in terms of horror. I think it's very distinctive, very indie.
It is. It falls into the sort of category of sort of folk horror. It's this sort of indigenous, sort of homegrown kind of thing. Really interesting performances from Sean Young, of all people. in there, and Larry Fessenden, who's sort of like the he's kind of like the go-to guy for in indie horror. Basically, he does a lot of work both behind and in front of the camera in a lot of these productions.
Have you got The Last Winter yet?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up. You've got to see
Pod
it.
is the other one I want to get hold of as well. That he was involved in.
Steve, you're number one.
Yes.
Best throwback.
Like I say, I punted it earlier on. It's Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Yeah, absolute genius film. I couldn't believe it took me sort of nearly 30 years to get around to seeing this. But it's absolute. It's not only genius, but it's also batshit crazy genius.
Yes, exactly.
So many great ideas sort of in there. Sort of visually really appealing film.
Yeah. Like the blackboard scene and
the thing with the rocking horse and
oh god, that's just fucking creepy. That
no, I totally agree. Brilliant film.
And the daddy-daughter scene.
Oh yeah,
god, yeah, that's what I mean. There's just so many memorable scenes in it, and it
is very memorable. It was good. I'd never seen it before either. It was really good.
Absolutely insane, but it's just fun. Just so much fun and creepy, and it just doesn't get bogged down with rules or anything like that. He just throws them out the window and just cracks on with it.
Absolutely.
And Mike, you're number one.
My number one is Harry Long and Scott Glenn and William Forsythe in Firestorm.
Oh man, that is great.
And believe it or not,
that is brilliant. I didn't put that in my list because that's one of my all-time favourites. But I'm so glad you've picked that.
Following your rule, I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen it before until we covered it on the DTV Throwback. So I absolutely loved it.
Brilliant! Stone cold DTV classic, that one.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know how I'd missed it for so long.
And my number one is another little curiosity: Faults.
Yes, that was very good as well. Yeah.
Again, sort of indie, not really horror, not really sci-fi, not really drama. It's kind of it's sort of black comedy, but it veers in so many different directions. You're not really sure what you're constantly wrong-footed with it. It's really
a mind fuck, is what it is. It's Mary Elizabeth Wanstead is this woman who is been indoctrinated into this weird cult called Faults, and her family basically kidnaps her and gets this guy who's a psychologist to try and deprogram her, and it's all mostly set inside this hotel room, and these conversations between the two characters. It is brilliant and creepy. It sort of brings the creep factor for sure. But it's one of those weird films. It's difficult to talk about without sort of giving too much away. So, just check it out. It's brilliant.
So a quick recap on our favourite throwbacks of the year. Mine was Faults. Mm-hmm. Steve's, yours was Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. And Mike, yours was Firestorm. Brilliant. Okay. All right, our next award is the Best On-Demand Exclusive. So this is a film that you can't get on DVD you can't get on DVD or Blu-ray. It's exclusively available online, whether that's on a subscription platform or pay on demand. Steve, you're number 5, please.
Right, I might have caught up on this one. Sorry.
If you haven't got any, that's no problem. I can just do it with Steve.
I think I have, but I might have picked ones that are on DVD as well and caught it up. I weren't sure. I will pass on this one for now.
That's absolutely fine. Mike, your number 5, please.
My number 5 is Vampires versus the Bronx.
I didn't see this one.
This is a lot of fun. It's not quite a kids movie, but it's got these sort of young kids as the main protagonists. But sort of the subtext of the film is the sort of gentrification of the sort of neighborhood. Sort of like all sort of local corner shops have been replaced with artisanal sort of bakeries and coffee shops. And all these sort of white beardy sort of hipsters are sort of take over the neighborhood. But even that's now been sort of superseded by these vampires who are sort of buying up all the real estate. It's really good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. It's a cracking film. Just watched it during the lockdown, of a bit of a spare the moment thing, but it's really good fun.
Now, I'm a bit confused here because I don't have this on my list of films we covered on the show.
No. Oh, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't actually cover it. Sorry. Disqualified. But anyway, the reason is I actually had a list of top 4, and I thought, I better think of a 5th one on the fly, and I forgot that we hadn't actually covered that. But yeah, anyway, it's a damn good film.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 5 is The Plagues of Breslau.
Snap. Oh no, that's my number 4. So there you go.
So you have to say punt.
Punt.
Okay. Your number 4 is The Plagues of Breslau. Let's talk about it.
So this is a Polish film, and basically it's one of those sort of it's a thing that was back in the 90s. Really, it was following sort of Silence of the Lambs and things like that. You had all these sort of films which had sort of gimmicky sort of serial killer kind of things, and that's basically what this is, isn't it? It's somebody is using the so-called plagues, these sort of tortures that were used in medieval times with a very sort of specific sort of set of circumstances, and somebody's using it to sort of punish sort of wrongdoers in the town, and it focuses on this sort of very acerbic, sort of burnt out sort of female detective who's given this sort of new partner from the city to sort of help her out. It's really, really good film. Yeah,
fast pace, nice twists. I say formulaic. 7 being a particular influence, I would say, on this kind of format of film. Quite.
7, Bone Collector, that sort of
Bone
thing.
Collector, all that sort of stuff. I mean, 7 sort of kicked all that into gear, beyond Silence of the Lambs and everything. Correct. So yeah, it's well worth checking out. That's on Netflix. Mike, your number. That was your number 4. So my number 4. Sorry, my number 4 is Shifter.
Yeah.
Which was a sci-fi horror film, which you hooked us up with via the Horror Collective.
That's correct. Yeah.
Which was very interesting, very unpredictable. We've seen films like that before. It reminded me a little bit of some of the sci-fi time travel-y stuff we've seen, like Primer and things like that. More than. It's not Back to the Future. It's it's pretty disturbing. More and like body horror sort of elements into it as well. A little bit.
That's right.
David Cronenberg. Yeah, worth checking out.
It is very worth checking out. I think it's on Shudder, isn't it? That one?
Oh, is it? I wasn't sure where it was available.
Yeah.
Okay, your number 3, please, Mike.
6 Underground.
Punt.
Okay, so your number 3.
My number 3 is Cyborg: Deadly Machine.
Oh yeah.
Which was a YouTube film, or a film made available on YouTube from a Kickstarter group, the Maze Brothers. Very much a throwback to 1980s sci-fi action, specifically the Terminator, but lots of other stuff thrown in there as well as some fun humor.
Yeah. Yes, it was especially that sort of post-credit scene, which perfectly.
Oh, the advert, yeah.
That was genius.
Encapsulated the sort of the 80s and 90s. Yeah, no, it was very good. Yeah, it's fun watching it and sort of like working out all the Easter eggs and things as it's going, and it's a good film in itself as well.
Mike, your number 2. Please.
My number 2 is The Platform.
Now this is another one I didn't see. This was a Netflix film, wasn't it?
This is a Netflix, a Spanish film, dystopian future, all that sort of thing. And this guy's taking part in this sort of weird experiment where he's transported inside this facility, which basically has a platform full of food, which starts at the top level and goes down slowly. And if you're sort of on the bottom levels, there's hardly any food left by the time it gets to you, if any. And it's a very dark, sort of grim film, but absolutely brilliant.
And my number 2 is Six Underground. So, Mike, talk away.
So this is Michael Bay being unleashed by Netflix, basically, total artistic freedom and all that, whatever he has.
Artistic, in a in the sort of
air quotes, yeah. But the thing is, I mean, as you well know, I hate the editing style that he has. No shot lasts longer than 2 seconds throughout the film. But if you stick with it, it does become quite an engrossing story, and you can't sort of deny the flash and the action that he packs into this. It would be interesting to see sort of further installments down the line. So yeah, I did enjoy it in the end.
Yeah, I thought I mean, I don't remember a huge amount about it, but you do get. I mean, there's a lot on the screen. I mean, even that first basically first action scene kicks in.
20-minute action scene.
Yeah, pretty much there, and just keeps going and going and going, and they're going through all these fantastic. I think it's Italian. Locations, the beautiful sports car and stuff. It's all typical, exactly what you would expect from Michael Bay. Slow motion sort of shooting and bits and bobs. Yeah, that's the thing I remember most. I mean, it's very forgettable popcorn entertainment, but I can't fault it for that. I mean, it's just really really good fun, really. Number 1, please, Mike.
My number 1, as if there's any doubt, it is Extraction.
Of course it is.
so yeah, Chris Hemsworth sent into the middle of Delhi to rescue the son of a drug cartel guy who's in prison. But he can't afford the ransom, so he has his guys try and rip them off, and it gets incredibly messy. But the action is absolutely superb. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, Mike Fury and Ben Johnson over at the Kung Fu Movie Guide Christmas special review of the year. They rated that one a lot as well. I'm in the minority on that one of not being particularly sold on it. But also my number 1, you were not particularly sold on. It is Knuckle Dust.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that really did split the
yeah,
it
is,
didn't it? So we went down from a 4 through to an 8 on that one, wasn't it? 4, 6, and an 8, I think.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was. I really, really liked it a lot. Visually, the characters and stuff. I just thought it was really surprising. It wasn't what I expected. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not perfect by any stretch. There's different, a lot you could say about. Well, a lot we did say about it when we reviewed it a few episodes back, and. Yeah, I just thought it really made a big impression on me, and so yeah, it'd be interesting if it does come on disc at some point. It might get a sort of bit more broader appeal. I think some people might be led into thinking that it's going to be a martial arts kind of tournament movie, but it's really not. It's completely different to that. It's more like your typical British gangster kind of. Guy Ritchie-ish thing.
It's got a lot of Guy Ritchie in it. That's Guy Ritchie and Quentin Tarantino are the 2 touchstones in that one, I think.
So Knuckle Dust and Extraction, and Steve, out of curiosity, in your mixed up list, what did you have for number?
Hang on, I'm trying to find what I had. I had something complete. It must be on a disc. I had Antrim, so.
All right.
Antrum's
on a disc, unfortunately.
That is on a disc. Not included. Fail. Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's move right on to the next award, which is the best horror movie.
Cool.
Now, does everyone have a list?
I've got a top 4 for this one for some reason.
Top 4, okay. Well,
no, actually, I'll stick a top. I'll put a number 5 in.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Top it up.
I forgot what it's called now. Something. Did I write it down anywhere else? Oh yeah.
It's okay. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike. What's your number 5?
We Summon the Darkness.
Oh, that's good. Yes, I enjoyed that one a lot.
Yeah, that was. It's one of those films which plays with the expectations, which I do enjoy. It sort of sets up one thing and then sort of pulls the rug a little bit and goes, actually, something else. Yeah, so that was good. And even though he's sort of very prominent on the cover, on the cover art for this, Johnny Knoxville has a small role, but quite a significant one, and he's quite enjoyable when he turns up.
Steve, your number 5, please.
My number 5 is Bit. The
Punt.
Yeah.
Punt.
Oh, okay. My number 5 is Shifter, which we just talked about. So we'll move on to number 4 now. Mike, your number 4.
My number 4, it's barely a horror film, to be perfectly honest, but it's Green Light.
Punt.
Ooh. Well, at least you've just validated my putting it on the horror list.
Steve, number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is Child Eater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. I enjoyed it. It does exactly what it says in the tin. Quite creepy. A couple of really, really dodgy kills in it, and yeah, it was okay. I enjoyed it.
I liked it. But I didn't like it as much as my number 4. But first, Mike. Sorry. Who are we on to now? I've got confused. Mike, is it your number 4?
No, it'd be my number 3.
So my number 4. Oh, there we go. Straight into Prey.
Yes, very good film.
Dick Master's Lion on the Rampage in Amsterdam movie.
I didn't consider it horror, but it's still very good. Yeah.
You didn't consider it horror?
I know.
A lion eating people, including a child.
Yeah, it's a good point. But
horror comedy does count.
It would. It would for my number 3. So
yeah, and mine too. Speaking of which, on to Mike's number 3.
Two Heads Creek.
Punt. No, it's my number 3 as well. So.
Oh, there you go.
And wouldn't you know it, it's my number 3 as well.
Oh, see, great minds think alike. So yeah. This was really good. Manic sort of horror comedy, but with some very cutting sort of social commentary in there as well. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyable film.
Yeah, about a couple of people, a brother and sister who live in the UK, who travel to meet their relatives in Australia, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And get a bit more than they bargained for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
It's. I think if anyone enjoys something like the League of Extraordinary. The League of Gentlemen. Yeah, you're right, not the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That's a different thing. No, the League of Gentlemen. It's got that kind of humour. I think to the locals. It's really put a smile on my face as well as.
I'm looking forward to their next film called Bloody Hell.
Oh right, it was a good title. I like that.
It should be out soon.
Steve, your number. Mike, your number 2.
My number 2 is the one I punted earlier. Is Bit.
Yep.
So this is the vampire movie. It's kind of like a female version of the Lost Boys. But works really, really well. Some really good performances in it. Yeah,
I was very tempted to put this in my list as well. This was one I enjoyed that hell of a lot. The conclusion let it down a bit, but for the most part, the style and the music and the characters, and with the exception of a couple of the grand vampire character was.
That was the really, really down point on it for me. He was terrible, absolutely terrible.
But let's focus on the positive.
The
The strong female characters were brilliant, especially the sort of two principals.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name, but the one who's basically the Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, Diana Hopper played Duke.
Yeah, she was brilliant. Always wearing this. She's a vampire all covered in blood, but she's always wearing pristine white, which I liked. So that was really good. Steve, your number 2.
My number 2 is Sputnik, the Russian alien not rip-off, but parasite movie. Just really nicely paced. Wasn't what I expected it to be fair. I expected a bit more Monster of the Week, ripping heads off every 5 minutes, but it was the really, really slow, languid pace that really built up to a really nice conclusion. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we all liked that one, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. My number 2 is Greenlight.
Hey. Yeah, this was I do like films which are set within like films, if you see what I mean. The sort of whole filmmaking sort of process when you have a sort of horror movies, especially when they're sort of set in that sort of location, it seems to sort of really get something out of it. So yeah, this is really interesting. It's about a young film director who's trying to break into features and sort of hitting a bit of a glass ceiling, and finally gets a producer on board to sort of give him the green light to do a feature, but it comes at a big cost. And it is very, very interesting. Really well shot and lit, that one.
I agree. It's a very unexpected film. Hadn't really heard of it. Kind of came out of left field. I'm still not 100% sure on what the availability is on it, where people can find it. But
well, we got it through the Horror Collective, so it may be on Shudder, but it's it was sent to us sort of for its American release.
Yeah, for its American release. But do look out for it if it's not one you're familiar with. Check it out. Mike, your number 1, please.
I have a feeling that my and Steve's number 1 are going to be the same film, and that is Antrum.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely cracking.
Absolutely superb film. So there's 2 parts to this. There's the central film itself, which is about this brother and sister who travel into this forest to
dig a hole to hell to get his dog back.
Yeah, to get his dog back. And it is, it's absolutely brilliant and terrifying. What happens, but wrapped around that film, and that film is the film stock they use and everything is done in such a way, the lighting is to make it look like it was made in the 70s, and you're not really sure which country it actually comes from either, but wrapped around the film is this sort of mini documentary which tries to build up the idea that the film itself has been lost following 3 tragedies that happened every time somebody tried to show the film. And, the idea is the film is actually cursed. And they even build in this sort of like countdown, this caption comes up saying, "You're about to watch Antrum in its entirety." You've got 20 seconds. Yeah, you got like 20 seconds to switch off and do something else. Otherwise, we hold no responsibility for what's about to happen. Yeah, and you do feel like the hairs on the back of your neck go up a little bit, watching it. It is very well done. I mean, the Blair Witch Project had a brilliant PR campaign where they sort of, inadvertently led people to believe that it was a real film and, the cast were really missing. Whereas this says, no, the film is a film. It's fiction. We know that. But it's cursed.
Yeah.
And it works brilliantly. It really does heighten the film while you're watching it.
Well, the hype and marketing of it worked a bit too well on me because I was too scared to watch it.
To be fair, it's not exactly terrifying. It's more just an uneasy feel with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
that kind of grows, and it's just the dread that runs through it. And like you're saying, the wraparounds really do give it that extra oomph, and it works so well.
Can't recommend it highly.
One of the interesting films I've seen. So
I will summon the courage to watch it at some point. My number one, because I didn't have the nerve to watch Antrim, was Sea Fever.
Was what? Oh, Sea Fever. Yes.
The sort of monster movie that's not really a monster movie in the traditional sense. It's very sort of I don't know. Unpredictable. Sort of very, very. I don't know. Unusual pace. It's sort of spooky. It's got the monster bits. It's got the spooky bits, but it's something a bit more. I don't know, organic. It's like a bioluminescent kind of life form. You can't stop it. It's just a bit like COVID, I guess. It's just something it just gets to you. I don't know. It's a
freaky.
Yeah, it is. It's got a really good cast, really well made. It's kind of it's co-production between Ireland and
who's the lady? Was it Connie Nielsen?
Connie Nielsen.
Connie Nielsen and Dougray Scott were sort of background characters.
Yeah, they're sort of like the heavyweights that anchor the movie. But yeah, it's really low key, but well worth seeing. It's not got anything particular. Well, there's a couple of pretty gross bits, if I recall correctly, but nothing too intense. It's more. It's not mainstream, but it's not art house. It's kind of sits somewhere between the two, and I quite like that. So our best horror movies of the year are Sea Fever and Antrim.
Hey.
Where best to go than to our favourite science fiction. So best sci-fi movie. Steve, your number 5, please.
I haven't got a 5 for this one.
No, that's absolutely
number
fine.
1. That's
okay. Mike, your number 5, please.
I don't have a number 5 either.
You let me down, Mike. Okay, all right. Let's go with number 4. I'm not even going to say my number 5. Well, let's make it 4.
I've literally got the number 1 because
okay.
Most of the ones I haven't been sci-fi.
No, that's okay. I understand. Okay, so what the hell? I'm going to say my number 5. Skyfire was my number 5 in terms of sci-fi movies. I thought loosely sci-fi. I did kind of tack it on there because I consider it more of an action movie, but it does have a science fiction element. I will bring it in to other discussions later. Right. Mike, your number 4.
My number 4 is Shifter.
Okay, yeah. I didn't actually include that in my sci-fi list, but it's every bit as much a sci-fi movie as it is a horror movie. In fact, probably more a sci-fi movie, so excellent choice. I'm going to go with Mortal, which was the Norwegian superhero-ish kind of tale of a young man of Norse origin, should we say, discovering his identity. Which has some quite spectacular set pieces. It feels like if Norway made a Marvel superhero movie. It's basically what it is. So I quite like that one.
I mean, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't class it as sci-fi, to be fair.
Maybe it's more... Well, I suppose...
More magical?
Technically, it is more fantasy. Yes, that is true. Good point, Steve. Thanks for ruining my list.
Don't mention it, mate. Don't mention it.
Right. So, Mortal, which isn't really sci-fi. But Shifter, which is. So, there we go. Number 3, please, Mike.
Code 8, starring Robbie Amell and Stephen Amell.
Yes, that is my number 4 now. I'm making that my number 4.
So this is okay. Ostensibly, you could call this a sort of superhero kind of thing, where we have these guys who have these sort of abilities, but there is definitely a sci-fi element because the police force are made up of these androids, which are super cool looking. So yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay, that's great. I just realised that I messed up my list. I actually had 6 on there. Sci-Fi wasn't meant to be on there. So Sci-Fi is my number 4. Mortals coming off. Sci-Fi is my number 5. Sorry. My number 4 is Invasion Planet Earth.
Yeah, good one.
This was a throwback to sort of old TV for at least part of it, wasn't it? It's like sort of very much a throwback to Doctor Who and I don't know, some of the other shows. You picked up more references than I did, Mike, when we were watching it. And yeah, just it's an independent British sci-fi movie where they just sort of threw so much at it. They even got tanks running around in, what was it, Birmingham? And they had zombies, I think, in there as well. All sorts.
Yeah, they had these sort of brilliant sort of dream sequence sort of bits in it. It's really good. And it also had that sort of like made-up retro TV show element, which fit in really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty good. We enjoyed that.
Your number 3? Are we at now, Mike? Sorry. Sorry.
My number 2 is Chronicle, whatever the date was, 2046, was it?
Oh, Punt.
Oh, cool.
I'm going for my number 2 is 2099, The Soldier Protocol.
Yes. So that was the one set in the sort of bunker system where they're sort of testing out these sort of various sort of abilities against these sort of puzzles and things.
Originally called The Wheel.
That's right.
In Australia. It's got David Arquette.
David Arquette one, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's quite sort of manic in that as well, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, well, he's hopped up, isn't he?
Yeah.
On their stuff. Yeah, so I've got some. I didn't think the action sequences were as good as I would like to have liked them to have been, but I still thought it was a very strong premise.
It was, and had a great location as well. Yeah, it was well made for the film.
Steve, your number 1, please.
Sputnik again.
Okay. Okay, and Mike?
June Drifter.
Okay, yeah. See, I didn't get on with that one.
You didn't get on with that, I know, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the various elements in it. The sort of the plucky heroine and the whole thing about being stranded on this alien planet kind of thing going on. I thought it worked really well. Had good sort of production values. Really liked it.
And my number 1 is Chronicle 2067.
Yeah, another Australian sci-fi movie.
Yeah, coincidentally, actually, I didn't even think about that when I was ranking my list. No, it's a lot of good stuff coming out of Australia at the moment. They also did that other one, The Occupation, which we watched.
Yes,
a way back.
And hopefully this year we'll get to see the sequel. So
but focusing now on Chronicle, originally called 2067. It's just kind of got a big landscape, big sort of epic story, but told with essentially 2 characters for a majority of the running time. Cody Smith McPhee, I think his name is, and Ryan Quanten.
Ryan Quanten, yeah. So one of the sort of actors who, if I see him in the cast list, then I'm instantly interested in seeing that film. So yeah, this worked really well. As you say, the set design again, the sort of the far future kind of thing. Even the current present, the idea is that we've managed to sort of decimate all of the rainforests, even down to the last tree, and now sort of the Earth's atmosphere is running out basically. So Cody Smith McPhee's father was involved in this attempt to build a time machine with the idea of sort of catapulting somebody far into the future, to sort of like basically sort of jump ahead like 400 years in the hope that the Earth has sort of managed to sort of regenerate itself in the meantime. So you get some really good sort of juxtaposition between this sort of like sort of awful industrious sort of Melbourne with the sort of future version, and I think it works really well. It reminded me a bit of the ending of Logan's Run. When you've got like the overrun sort of Washington landscape. I thought that, it's a very similar sort of thing to that.
So our favourite sci-fi movies, if we can just recap, Steve? Sputnik, Mike?
Dune Drifter,
and mine was Chronicle 2067. Now, what do you say we have a little break from the awards and do some reviews?
Why not indeed? Okay, so let's crack on with a couple of reviews. I'm going to start with the latest Jackie Chan film called Vanguard. In this one, Jackie Chan is the head of a international private security firm called Vanguard, and one of their clients is kidnapped in London's Chinatown and held for ransom. So he sends in two of his agents and to rescue them, and then they have to go to Africa to rescue their daughter from poachers and all sorts. And then the action goes from there to Bahrain, I believe. No, the Middle East, and then Bahrain. It's a bit of a globe-trotting film. Jackie Chan is 66 now, I believe. And I think there's a very much an unfair expectation for him to still be doing the stuff that he was doing in Police Story and Project A, Armor of God, Dragons Forever, that sort of thing. The guy's 66. Give him a break, for God's sake. Be thankful that he is still very much active in his films, and he still insists on doing his own stunt work. Apparently, there's a bit in the film involving a jet ski chase over in a river with a sort of a waterfall at the end of it, and apparently he came off his jet ski and almost drowned. So he's still doing his own stunts, and you can see the outtakes in the in the post credits as usual. So he's got two sort of younger but unfortunately blander guys as the sort of main heroes in this one, but they are very good at the action stuff. There's one of my favorite staples, the kitchen fight. The restaurant kitchen fight is always good to see in an action film. If you can't have a fight in an elevator, at least have one in the kitchen, I always say. The weirdest part of this film is the sort of climactic thing, which happens in Dubai, as I said. Now, one of his previous films, Kung Fu Yoga, also was set in Dubai for a large part of it, and it's very similar. There's a car chase sequence using very high-end, sort of performance cars, sort of very expensive things. And in fact, in this one, they're all gold-plated, literally gold-plated cars.
Oh, I've heard about those.
Yeah. So it's crazy. The only difference is in the Kung Fu Yoga version there was a CGI lion sharing the car with Jackie. In this one there are CGI lions, but they're in the African section of the film, and they're just as bad as they are in the film Rogue. Yeah. With good old Megan Fox. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. The middle bit of the film set in the Middle East, it's a brilliant action set piece, very reminiscent of things like Extraction and the Strike Back series. It's up to that sort of standard of sort of gunplay and everything. It is very good. It's designed to be a sort of a Chinese New Year crowd pleaser. Yeah, that's what it was meant to have been back in 2020. It's been held out for a year, and it ends with this sort of weird thing where all the cast are on the screen wishing Happy New Year. It's like all pretense goes out the window, which is very strange. So it's directed by Stanley Tong, who did a few of Jackie's other films.
Did he do Kung Fu Yoga as well?
I think he did. He also did The Myth was one of his other ones.
Rumble in the Bronx is obviously the real classic. Yeah. And Mr. Magoo he did, but that was without Jackie.
So, I mean, the last, if you're hankering for like pure Jackie Chan, the golden age, that ended for me with Rob B. Hood. That was the last film you could sort of point to and say, yes, that's a classic Jackie Chan film, with all the kung fu and all this sort of, the amazing sort of stunt work and everything.
It's more like a My Lucky Stars kind of movie, that isn't it?
A little bit, but
I think
it surprised me. That film surprised me. I avoided it at first because, and they very cleverly omit this from the trailer. If you ever watch the trailer for Robin Hood, they omit the fact that he's stuck with a baby for a lot of the film. They managed to edit around it in all these little scenes. But, I thought, oh, great. So it's Jackie Chan with a baby. Do I really want to see that? And actually, yes, you do want to see that because
there's some really good fight scenes in that.
Really good fight scenes, really good action scenes, good stunt work all the way through that. It's definitely worth checking out. And it's the last time you're going to see him and Yembio. And I think even Samo turns up for a cameo in that one as well.
I didn't remember that. All I can think of is I never understood the title. I never understood why what that title meant. But
no, but
this
one, Vanguard is certainly it's an improvement on Bleeding Steel, which was the previous film that he did. It's a bit more sort of lighthearted. It's more it's more actiony, that's for sure.
Well, that's good. So there's it's got the action and it's got the comedy. So it's more of a typical Jackie vehicle than Shinjuku
or Little Big Man or whatever, all that sort of stuff. So this is sort of him being back on board, but he's not sitting behind a desk. This isn't like Sylvester Stallone in the Lockdown 2 or whatever it was, but
or Escape Plan.
Escape Plan, that's what I'm thinking of. He's definitely involved, and he's doing stunts, he's doing little fight scenes and things like that. But the main focus is on these other characters, the younger guys.
Okay, so is it misleading top billing then?
Not really, kind of, yeah.
Should it be and Jackie Chan?
Possibly, yeah, something like that. But he's definitely a presence in the film.
The thing with a lot of the whole globe-trotting adventure kind of thing that Jackie, I guess, took from the James Bond films. He essentially turned his formula, combined his work with the James Bond formula. So his movies like the Chinese equivalent of James Bond movies. He traveled to like 5 or 6 different countries in lots of his movies, and adding in that the comedy and stuff. They also have these broad casts. Chinese movies quite often have wide casts of characters, like sometimes like 6 or 8 characters you're following and trying to follow all their different subplots and stuff. And I know that the ensemble film is still very popular. So would you say that this is more of an ensemble kind of film?
No. This is more focused.
It's definitely
the Lucky Stars thing is definitely a touchdown of what you're aiming for there. But no, this is very much it's the same group of characters going from A to B to C to D sort of thing.
Right.
It's not sort of switching between plots or anything like that.
Okay.
From that point of view, it's sort of clearer and sort of more linear. But
who are our bad guys in this?
There's a mixture of sort of like Middle Eastern terrorists and some British guys actually as well. I can't remember the names of them, but they do fight very well. The stuff at the beginning is really good. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. But if you're hankering for the classic Jackie, then go and watch some classic Jackie. Don't expect him to be doing this sort of stuff he was sort of 30 years ago, because it's not going to happen. It's the new guys coming through. I just wish they were given a bit more characterization than they are in this one. There you go. Yeah, still enjoyed it.
How are you going to score it, Mike? You're the only one who's seen it, by the way.
I've only seen it, so it's a very entertaining 7 out of 10. Our next review is Deliver Us from Evil. A former secret agent is now working as a covert vigilante assassin. As he prepares to leave his killing ways behind him, however, he's drawn to Thailand to find a young girl who's been abducted by organ farmers. That's not all of his problems, however, as the psychotic brother of his last target is also hell-bent on getting revenge. Okay, so a little bit of a slow start to this one, Steve. After the the initial attack, which was very reminiscent of the film Leon. I found sort of the opening bit, which is really cool. So we got this character who he used to be a sort of part of this sort of covert special ops group who got outed by the press and then disbanded, and so he's sort of on the run and ended up becoming a sort of this sort of vigilante assassin, taking out sort of various yakuza and people like that. But he's decided that he's had enough, and unfortunately, it's sort of dovetailed into this kidnapping thing that happens with his ex-girlfriend who's now living in Thailand. So it's a bit convoluted, but he goes over there to sort of try and help out. And it gets very messy because this brilliant character called Ray the Butcher, who happens to be the brother of the guy, he's the last guy he killed, the last target he had this brother called Ray the Butcher, and he's coming after him. And he's absolutely superb. Just this crazy, psychotic guy.
He just doesn't give a flying fuck, does he, really? He's absolutely nuts. But yeah, like I say, it's a little bit convoluted at the beginning. Just throwing all the strands together and getting the story going. But once it does, it really does kick into gear. Very, very grim story, I thought. Especially with the organ, the organ farming and stuff like that.
The whole thing, because they're targeting these kids. Even going a step back a bit, because the girlfriend gets caught up in this scam, doesn't she, about this sort of new home thing? Is it a golf course or golf course. It was a real estate deal, wasn't it? And it's like, she's going, well, what's the catch? It seems like too good to be true. And what's actually happening is they're fleecing all her money, kidnapping a kid for ransom, and then they kill her off, as we find out. That's not a spoiler. That sort of happens quite early on. But the whole thing, and when he catches up with the guy, he's just telling him it really matter-of-factly. It's like this. We kill them. It's what we do. It's just so matter of fact. It's like it's worse than sort of being a psychopath. It's like, human life just does not matter. It's just a thing that's in the way. It's freaky to sort of get into that sort of mindset. It's bizarre.
But that's the thing. The tone of it changes throughout the film, because then, once it gets to Bangkok, and then gets his guide who's like the transsexual club worker who's quite annoying, and she reminds me of like thingy out of Temple of Doom. In a way, you know what I mean? Just there to scream and be annoying. And
the character she reminded me of was is it Bridget Fonda's character in Kiss of the Dragon? She played
in a way,
that sort of thing.
But it's brilliantly shot, brilliantly choreographed, and I think we've got a new favourite hitman in Ray the Butcher. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
There's a brilliant scene where Ray's basically turned around to his guys and said, right, find me two locals who are going to help me out. Sort of find this thing, and they make the stupid mistake of trying to double cross him, and it's just brilliant. I mean, I've said it a number of times. I always love it when bad guys sort of underestimate who they're trying to stand up to and stuff like that, and they think, we've fooled this guy into coming to this room where there's like 10 of us. We're going to take him out. It's like, no, this is Ray the Butcher you're dealing with.
No,
but the thing is, the punches, the sound effect and the reaction shots, you really feel like he's hitting them with like slabs of meat, sort of thing. It's it's a guy. The guy gets like punched through a window, and it's just really, really well done, really good. So I suppose the closest. The closest that I come with this film is The Man from Nowhere. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
It has sort of similarities to it. But the other one is, as we mentioned, Leon as well, of course. But
Yeah.
That in that sort of ballpark.
Yeah, you've also, Mike, you've got a fight in a lift as well.
Indeed, we do. Yeah, we have a really good one. Yeah, really good sort of fight in the lift going on. As a sort of a minor character, we've also got, I'm going to murder his name, we've got Vitaya Panstringam, who has been in a number of these things. He was in Only God Forgives as the police chief who beat up Ryan Gosling. And he's also in another film called The Prey, which was very good. I saw earlier this year. Excuse me. So yeah, no, this is solid stuff. You know, really, really good. It goes completely off the rails at certain points because obviously, you know, a hero's trying to sort of track down these organ farmers, you know, before they sort of kill this girl, and at the same time, you got this absolute psycho sort of chasing him down. You know, he's got no sort of qualms about sort of collateral damage or anything. So yeah, it gets pretty crazy.
And you get a SWAT team involved as well.
Yeah. Definitely recommend this. So I'm giving this a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll agree on that one.
2 8s for Beyond Good and Evil. Is that right? Deliver Us From Evil, sorry.
No, Deliver Us From Evil.
Deliver Us From Evil. Beyond Good and Evil is a completely different film. Deliver Us From Evil, 2 8s from the DTV Digest. Our next review is Let It Snow. Mia and Max are a young American couple who have traveled to Georgia to do some snowboarding on the notorious Black Ridge. However, not long after they arrive, tragedy strikes and Mia finds herself not only stranded but hunted by a mysterious black-clad snow scooter rider. Let's go with Steve.
Right, well, it starts off quite well, and then nothing much happens. It's beautifully shot, but to be honest, I found this quite boring. You get an hour in, and there's been one slightly scary scene, and it's basically a woman wandering around in the snow for an hour. And it just didn't grab me at all, and the ending really pissed me off, to be fair. But
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Rich, what do you make of Let It Snow?
Yeah, I liked it. It was interesting. I wasn't quite sure what I was in for when it started because it begins with a Russian version of Let It Snow. Was that Bing Crosby? Did he do it? Did he do it originally? Yeah. So it's got like a Christmas theme going on in the background because this is it's set at Christmas, but you know it's not a massively Christmassy film. But it only struck me when we were watching it and the song kicks in. I was like, of course it's a Christmas song, Christmas theme kind of thing. So it's quite odd that it got released after Christmas. It would have been great to cover this one on our Christmas episode. But it's that familiar setup of a young couple go to a place, bad things happen to them. You know, Eden Lake. You know, millions of other films you could think of that do this kind of thing. But in that setup of it just being about a couple, you've kind of got that limitation. You know, they don't introduce a whole bunch of other supporting characters who can be fodder in the the slasher movie kind of scenario. So it's much more of a cat and mouse kind of story. Probably the closest thing I can think of it recently that we watched was the Tom Berenger film Blood and Money. But very different movie. This is like a full-on horror movie, but it kept reminding me of other stuff like Cold Prey or Fritz Wild, as it was originally called, which is a very memorable raw Utag slasher movie. That from Norway, and there are nods to The Shining and stuff, and when they go to this hotel, which is a bit weird, and there's no one there, and there's some strange things, perhaps a little bit spooky going on. Not quite sure, but although I'll echo Steve's sentiment. It looks amazing. I mean, the locations in, I think it's the Caucasus in Georgia. The mountains look absolutely incredible. So the cinematography is really good there. So they filmed it really well. I mean, it's not easy to film in these locations. You've got to take out all the stuff and trying to set yourself up and everything. And they would have been the elements to battle, almost like documentary filmmakers have to deal with, I think. So they got that right. But the story is too familiar and too run of the mill and not satisfying enough. There's plot elements introduced. And then, we get exposition at various points through the story. But it's not overly satisfying. The main problem is there's not enough story to sustain whatever. I think it's like an hour and a half or just over an hour and a half minute running time. So what you get is the young woman encounters the killer, who she then gets away from, only to then run into him again and the cycle begin again. So that happens over and over. And I know it's a cat and mouse thing, but in some of the cases, it's just kind of like, it seems overly convenient of how they manage to keep running into each other in this vast landscape. And culminating with the bit that happens at the end. It's like, well, out of the whole area, how did they know that she was going to get to that point to find that thing? But even before that, there was a bit where she gets, I think she gets covered in an avalanche or something. But she's found really quickly. They know the exact spot where to find her. I mean, what are the chances? I mean, that reminded me of something like I think it was I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. It's like the killer's hiding under the beach or something, and the victim conveniently walks to the precise location that they are. There's that kind of ridiculousness, which is a shame. I think it's good. I think it would have made a really good short, but there's not enough to sustain the full running time.
Yeah, it's like you say, you introduce two characters into it, and that's it. So there's nowhere really for it to go to ratchet any real tension or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So
there was that Maggie Q film as well, which had a similar kind of thing. Husband goes missing, she's running around looking for him, but she had more characters to interact with. Yeah. There was a bit more going on.
So the opening sequence is pretty horrific. Not only what happens, but the reaction to it. Again, that sort of callous nature which is, basically these two snowboarders accidentally kill this girl by colliding into her, and then their attitude is, well, we better get out of here. We don't want to get involved in this. I'm thinking, you fucking killed her. You're involved. It's not like you're an innocent bystander who just happened to cross something. You fucking, So, that is the catalyst for what happens in the film. But what happens in the film is 3 years later, and dozens of victims later. So you don't even have this sort of Friday the 13th thing of where it's like the previous sort of camp counselors being sort of tracked down and things like that. It's completely removed. The actual vendetta is just a vendetta for its own sake now. You
do get a Crazy Ralph kind of character, which in the weird receptionist who kind of warns them, "Oh, you mustn't go. You mustn't go to the Black Ridge."
Like and I wish more had been set in the hotel, with maybe some other characters. I mean, we do see, right at the beginning, there's another person who's been killed, and they're sort of bringing the body out. Right. With why weren't they involved in in the story? It's like, oh.
But having said that, why would you ID a body in a hotel fucking car park, not in a police station?
But, but I totally agree with the pair of you. So once she's on the slopes and everything, and the initial sort of disappearance, it's just following her around, going through adversity after adversity. and without sort of really, you don't get sort of any sort of confrontation scene. There's no sort of like showdown between the final girl and the killer or anything like that. Instead, we just get this sort of ending. And as I agree with you, I just felt really pissed off with that ending. It's just like
I was fuming. It's like seriously, I've sat through this.
After all that, that's what happens. It's like fuck you, which is a shame because.
Can I just check which ending are we talking about? Before the credits or during the credits? Oh, okay.
Before the credits. Yeah.
The snowman thing. Okay. Well, I didn't have a problem with that.
No, we'll talk about it.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it just seemed pointless. It's like but
I can't say why because it'll give it away. But anyway, so scores on the doors. I've got to give this a 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go 5 just for the cinematography. It looks great. Well,
just as a sort of final thing, I mean the characters were dubbed, right?
No.
It
was shot in English. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean it's a Ukrainian-Georgian production, but it's been made. It's been made in the style of an American movie, so they cast Americans and.
Right. Okay.
Well, no, actually, because Mia is actually Georgian.
She's Georgian, is she?
Sankno.
Oh, I apologise. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry, Ukrainian. Sorry.
Well, she's either doing well with the American accent, which is quite feasible, or she's been dubbed. It didn't sound to me like there was any dubbing going on.
Yeah, it just sort of felt slightly slightly removed. But there you go. So that's 2 6s and a 5 for Let It Snow.
And we're back for part 2 of the DTV Awards for 2020. And we're going to start this section with Most Unexpected Mashup Award. Mike, you're number 5. Oh, sorry, you haven't done this one, have you?
I haven't done this one.
No.
I'm sitting
Naughty
this one
boy. Naughty boy. Right. Steve, you're number 5, please.
My number 5 is Cyborg Deadly Machine.
Punt.
Okay.
My number 5 is Proximity, which, Mike, would you like to contribute any comments about Proximity?
So this is the one which is about a guy who discovers an alien signal. He's working for MIT, and he's present for a alien spaceship coming in over the California sort of country park, national park, I should say. And then it sort of spins off, doesn't it? He ends up sort of going on the run. There's sort of weird thing with these androids going on.
He gets put in a facility and he escapes. And then they have to go to the woods, and it all goes to a bit war games and stuff. It's
all that, and then it ends up with this sort of thing about meeting God or something.
Jesus turns up at the end. I think
Jesus turns up or something at the end. It's freaky. Yeah.
Yeah, the aliens came because they want to meet Jesus. Apparently, I don't. Sorry to spoil it for you, everyone, but I think that's
the
crux of it. Yeah, basically.
It did have some good effects and some really good sort of cinematography.
It does. There was some good stuff in. There was some stuff that just didn't really work, like the androids and stuff. But it was a weird sci-fi mishmash, which I thought it's interesting, entertaining, but ultimately not particularly satisfying. Number 4, please, Steve.
My number 4 was Rogue. Just you've got the start with the rescuing of the girls and stuff, trying to escape, and then all of a sudden it turns into Alien in Africa.
Basically. Yeah, human traffickers combined with lion rampage kind of movie. Yeah, very good choice. Very good choice for, there, Steve. Yeah, we enjoyed that one, didn't we? That was Megan Fox movie. Probably, I think that might come up again a little later. My number 4 is Jiu-Jitsu, which was all sorts of combinations of things. Not a huge amount of jiu-jitsu, but a mix of all different ideas and styles, and sort of Predator cross with Mortal Kombat and stuff. Kind of again, a bit disappointing, but kind of enjoyed the craziness and sort of unpredictability of certain aspects of it, to be honest.
It's just
Nick Cage.
Kung Fu Predator.
Yeah, Kung Fu Predator. Yeah. Number 3, please, Steve.
Hunter's Moon, with the werewolf slash house invasion slash yeah. Like I say, I wasn't a massive fan of it, but it was quite original. But it was more the performances that put me off. I weren't mad on the performances on it, but the story was quite decent.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
I enjoyed that one a lot. Yeah, Thomas Jane turns up for a little bit to get top billing, but very good. And Jay Moore, that a very strange film for Jay Moore to be turning up in, but really good. I really like these sort of the twisty bits in that one.
My number 3 is Cyborg Deadly Machine. So, Steve, do you want to throw in a few more comments about what made this particular mashup good for you?
Obviously, it kicks off. You're thinking, well, Terminator, a bit of a Terminator rip-off, and then it starts building up with his obsession with his tomato sauce, and then you've got the animated section, and then it was just let's throw everything in there, mashed up from everything, and it was enjoyable, and especially that like we said before, the end credits advert as well. Yeah, I'd enjoy it. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It's only like an hour long. It's free on YouTube. Well worth checking out. Number 2, please, Steve.
Number 2 is Alien Addiction. The sci-fi stoner shit smoking weirdness that it was.
Yeah, that was certainly unexpected. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most bizarre thing I have seen in years. And unfortunately, I think I was ill when we recorded that episode and missed it. But you said that I needed to watch it, and it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one as well. It's very good.
Me too. Yeah, it was good fun. I possibly might mention it a little bit later. My number 2 was 9/11, combining the story of the attack on the World Trade Center with Charlie Sheen, who's got some fairly controversial views about 9/11. Well, so I thought that was an unusual combination.
It is certainly a number 2, that's for sure. Charlie Sheen, not forgetting Charlie Sheen and Whoopi Goldberg, and who else is it?
Gina Gershon.
Gina Gershon.
Gina Gershon.
Jesus, what a cast.
Louis
Grootman's in there as well.
Yeah. Louis Grootman.
and
the weird CGI stuff and everything. Anyway, this is again that's another film that might come up a little bit later.
It's definitely coming up again later.
Steve, number 1.
My number 1 was Mortal.
Fair enough. Yes.
Good choice.
Good choice. Good categorizing. Yep. Yes. That's where I should have put it.
Film. The fantasy, not sci-fi film.
Yeah.
I'd say the way you find out who he is and stuff like that, it's more not believable, more in like a real life setting. And then you've got like the mystical element as well. So I really enjoyed it.
Great choice. I think. Yeah. My number 1 is one we've already spoken about. I've already picked it as a number 1 before, and that's Knuckle Dust. So on. Again, not really much more to say because we've already spoken about it, and I know how you guys feel about it. So Knuckle Dust and Mortal, most unexpected mashups awards winners. Mike didn't have any. So never mind. We'll move on to the He's Barely In It award for misleading top billing. Mike, you're number 5, please.
I don't have any.
What?
I've got one for this. I've got
What?
one.
Okay.
It's all that's needed for this one.
I know, I do. Sorry, I've got 3 for this.
Okay.
And I'm going to kick off with We Summon the Darkness, which I've talked about earlier.
Yep.
And that is our friend Johnny Knoxville, who gets top billing, but only turns up. Well, you hear him during the film, but he only really sort of turns up for the end bit.
Mm-hmm. Steve, did you say you've only got one?
I've got There's only one in this category.
Okay. Well, we'll leave you till last then, and I will work through my list, and you guys see what you think. I had Money Plane noted because it mentions Denise Richards, quite high profile, but she's not in it at all, really. I mean, she's got like 1 or 2
scene.
Yeah.
I actually had it down for Thomas Jane again.
Yep.
Who gets a high billing, but again only turns up for a couple of scenes. But I think he just enjoys playing weird characters.
Yeah,
that's because he's weird.
He is. He turns up on set wearing like a full-length fur coat, smoking cigars apparently,
and no shoes.
And no shoes.
Doesn't wear shoes. Honestly, there's a podcast called Kingcast about Stephen King, and they did an interview with him for about an hour.
Yeah,
and he's just crazy. It's a great interview.
Interesting. Right, so I'm going to go on to my number 4, which is Hard Kill, which doesn't feature a huge. Oh, okay. Well, let's leave that one for now then. Where are we at, Mike? Have you got a number?
I've got a number 2.
Have you done 2 already?
Let's say yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going on to number 3 now. Mike, number 3.
But my number 3 was We Summon the Darkness. So
oh, sorry. Okay, I apologize. I get so confused trying to manage the different numbers of entries that we got. Right. I'm going for Silent Night as my next one, which was the poster shows Frank Harper front and center, but he's actually very much a supporting player in this, which is he's kind of the puppet master of organized crime in the movie, and he doesn't really get involved and go around swinging a shotgun. He's not the main character at all. Very much a supporting player. I'm going to move on to my number 2, unless anybody else has got anything else at this stage.
No, current.
Number 2, The Iron Mask, for Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who are shown to be, basically the 2 main characters.
They are the only characters
the front
as far as the DVD's covers concerned in the UK.
But they're very much not the main characters. Jason Fleming is ostensibly the lead, but again, even he's off screen for quite an amount of time. So
I really like this film. I do.
Me too. Had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's just the way it has been marketed is very misleading. Yeah, which is a shame because that scene is in and of itself is really good. The whole thing between Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan is superb. But it's not the movie. No.
Jackie Chan is both of them actually got a fair few bits in it, but they're very much peppered in. They're not. They're kind of welcome distractions or diversions rather than anything too substantial. I mean, to a large extent, they're inconsequential to the plot, and they've just kind of been worked in. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the guard of the Tower of London, which is interesting. And Jackie Chan is a guy he's a prisoner. He's kept prisoner for most of the film, and he teaches the lead character, Jason Fleming's character. He teaches him some martial arts, which enables him to do some scenes later in the movie, or justifies them. It was a Chinese co-production, so there's a lot more martial arts in it than there was in its predecessor film, which was released as Forbidden Kingdom, I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
Not to be confused
Yeah.
with the other Forbidden Kingdom with Jackie Chan, which was the one where he was with Jet Li.
Anyway, an interesting bit of retconning done between the two films as well, wasn't it? Because we actually covered the first one, because the first one ends with like this creature sort of like, you know, hiding away in a box, but in the
creature
in the original version, it's this ghastly sort of monster sort of creature. But by the time the sequel comes out, he's transformed into this cute and cuddly sort of kid-friendly creature. So, you know, so it can be, it's kind of like Slimer in Ghostbusters, you know, it's like, you know, he's one of the sort of ghosts in the first one, and then he's sort of a lovable sidekick in the second one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right, so number one for He's Barely In It. Steve, you had Hard Kill.
Don't we? Don't we all have Hard Kill?
We must have. Well, no, because Richard's had it earlier on. That's why we punted it.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, but I've got it for my number one.
Yeah. So Bruce Willis, he's not top credited, but he's pretty. He's basically this. It's him and Jesse Metcalf. Yeah. His head's really big on the cover, but as with most Bruce Willis movies of recent years, he is there to collect the paycheck and provide a little bit of marketing potential for the movie.
Interestingly, he's there's this new film coming out with the space one. I know in the States it's called Breach. I forgot what it's called.
Breach, yeah.
But
there's another one called Cosmic Sin with Frank Grillo.
Yeah, but this one, it not only has Bruce Willis in it, but also Thomas Jane. So the, you know, who can do the least amount of work, and still get the big paycheck. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, but at least Thomas Jane actually put some fucking effort in.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, yeah. Bruce Willis sort of basically turns up, and I'm pretty sure his lines are sort of written somewhere on the set, and he just looks over and reads them out. That's basically it. But you know, the funny thing is, me and my son have been watching all the Die Hard films. Mm-hmm. We're up to the third one, and you know, you can even in the third one, you can already see the rot. Basically, it's like, no, I just don't want to see this anymore.
How did you get on with the first one? Because that's like a hard 18.
No, you see, so the gore and the blood doesn't seem to bother him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be that bothered by it. So, yeah, he quite enjoyed it. He liked the second one. Yeah.
I wanted to watch the second one at Christmas. I didn't have time. I did watch the first.
Well, for my sins, now he wants to watch the fourth one, which next week.
I revisited the fourth one this year. I liked it. I had fun with it when I saw it at the cinema, and I didn't mind it when I saw it. I mean, it's got some good elements in it, but it's not a tradition. It's not. I mean, it's Die Hard with a vengeance, but with like real superhero kind of CGI stuff happening.
That's the thing. I mean, the last one basically turns him into fucking Superman. It's vile.
Yeah. That's a dumb one. Anyway, yes, let's go back to Hard Target.
Hard Kill.
Hard Target.
Yep.
Dan.
Exactly. So my number one, it's not based on the star billing. It's based on the character. So this film is called Arthur and Merlin, Knights of Camelot. Yeah. And Merlin, played by Richard Brake, barely appears in it. Yeah. He's like, you keep waiting for, Merlin's Merlin's there. And he's gone.
Yeah.
And then he comes back a little bit, and you know, it's like he's in like 3 scenes through the whole story. They've just put his name on there to be marketable. I understand that, but the original title of the film, I think, was Knights of Camelot, and it would have been so much more satisfying as a viewer to be able to watch the film and relax rather than constantly thinking, okay, so when's Merlin turning up? Because that's what, you know, it's Arthur and Merlin. It's not Arthur, it's Arthur and Merlin. So that really bugged me about a film that was, you know, otherwise fine.
It tried. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how old you two guys are, but do you ever remember a series called Arthur and the Britons?
No.
Going back to the 70s, no, but that's kind of what it sort of resembled more, you know, trying to sort of keep it real, rather than sort of fanciful. And I think it was relatively successful in that regard. But anyway, over to you, Rich.
We are going to now go to a couple of best tough categories. So we're going to start with our best tough heroine. And do we all have a top 5 for best tough heroine?
Yes, we do.
I believe so. I'm just trying to find it.
Mike, your number 5, please.
My number 5 is Rogue, Megan Fox.
Punt.
Yeah, I've got 3 for this one.
Okay. I'll kick in. I'll ask you, Steve, when we get to 3. Yeah. So my number 5 is The Plagues of Breslau, which we talked about earlier, and Mike, you already spoke about that particular character's strengths. So I won't dwell on that. Number 4, please, Mike.
My number 4 is I Am Vengeance Retaliation, Katrina Durden.
Punt. My number 4 is Ropes, the film about a young quadriplegic lady who is stuck in a house with a rabid dog.
Yeah. And
she has to use her wits to try and stay alive. Number 3, Steve.
Two Heads Creek. The sister.
Mm-hmm.
Starts out a bit of a wet lettuce, but then obviously comes up in the end.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a very good one, actually. That's a bit outside the box, that I would say. So yeah, good, very good choice. Steve, Mike, your number 3.
My number 3 is Dune Drifter.
Okay, yep, I thought that was going to come up at some point. Mike, can you elaborate a little bit more about the character's strengths here?
So Phoebe Sparrow plays Adler, is the main character. So she's sort of a young engineer. Pilot has been killed in the crash onto this planet. She's basically stuck on her own, and she realizes that the only way to sort of get off is to find this alien ship, which has also crash landed, and hopefully steal a working part from it. And yeah, it's just really good, really sort of resolved character. Really enjoyed it.
My number 3 is Rogue, with Megan Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
so we punched it further down the line. So
okay. So we're moving up to number 2 now. Mike.
My number 2 is Ravage.
My number 2 is Ravage as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk Ravage.
So this is a young lady who is a nature photographer, I believe, and basically she gets abducted by these sort of rednecks after seeing them sort of flogging this guy. Basically, she is raped and beaten up and all sorts, but manages to escape and sort of turn the tables on these guys using some rather inventive sort of ways of doing it. It's a pretty decent sort of revenge thriller.
Yeah, I enjoyed this as well. Well, I enjoyed this. Yeah, there's some bits to enjoy, and there's some bits to leave you.
Yeah, it's catharsis, basically.
Yeah. It's impressive, very interesting visuals, and I think the soundtrack was quite memorable, if I recall correctly. Some interesting music. Steve, you're number 2.
Sputnik again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
More mentally stronger than anything, but I think the way that she's trying to bring the character out and help him escape and just try and separate him from the parasite, I thought she did a really, really good performance.
Yeah, because she's having to sort of skirt the whole. Not only is she faced with this alien parasite thing and sort of dealing with the astronaut, but she's also having to skirt around the whole and sort of circumnavigate the whole sort of Soviet sort of culture and structure. Yeah, because you say the wrong thing, you could find yourself in front of a firing squad. It's that sort of basic thing. So yeah, there's a lot on a plate in that film.
And your number one, please, Mike.
My number one is, of course, Prey. So
the Lion movie.
The Lion movie, yes, indeed.
Okay, all right, interesting. I never considered that one. Tell me, remind me, because I can't think of.
The main protagonist in this is a vet at the zoo who is brought in by the police to help when a rampaging lion starts eating people in Amsterdam. So she, proves her resilience not only with her ex-boyfriend, but she's able to sort of use her knowledge, and she gets this sort of really good sort of action scene towards the end where it's basically her against the lions. So I thought it was really good, and she was really
great.
Good.
No, it's really. I mean, I love that movie as well. I thought it was really, really good. Steve, your number one, please.
Rogue.
Yeah.
Megan Fox, kicking ass. Taking shit, taking names. She's actually really impressive in that film, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought she was. She didn't look as weathered as you would expect that character to be, but that setting that issue aside, I thought she was very, very strong as the leader, very believable as the team leader in that scenario.
Absolutely.
My number one, as you can probably guess from the punt earlier, is I Am Vengeance Retaliation. Because although this is probably highlighted as a tough guy movie, it's really the ladies who steal the show, as you mentioned before, Katrina Durden, and I confess I can't find the other lady's name. I think it's Phoebe.
Yes.
On the list. So Katrina Durden is someone who initially is perhaps not a heroic character, but then there's stuff that develops and she becomes an ally of John Gold. A real scene stealer. And who was the other? Phoebe Robinson Galvin. There we go.
Yeah.
Phoebe Robinson Galvin as Kate Lynch. She's a member of John Gold's team, and she's really great. And we get, don't we get the two of them face off in a scene as well?
They do a fight scene as well, but eventually sort of team up. But it's almost as if sort of Ross Byask, the sort of writer and director, he kind of made a sort of backdoor pilot for these characters because they get almost as much screen time as sort of Vinnie Jones and what's his face, Stu Bennett. Yeah. So yeah. No,
he won't like being called what's his face.
What's his face? Yeah. Bump into him next year's London Film Festival. I'll have to pay for that. Fighting Spirit Festival even. But yeah, Katrina's really good in this. She really has some great sort of scenes all the way through the film, and it was really, really impressive.
So our number one tough heroine movies are I Am Vengeance Retaliation, Rogue, and Prey. So which then leaves us naturally to our best tough guy movie. And Mike, I'm going to throw this over to you first for number 5.
My number 5 is Seized.
Yep, so Scott Adkins versus Mario Van Peebles, sort of.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an average film for Scott, but an average Scott Adkins film is still a damn good Scott Adkins film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that doesn't make
fair.
sense.
That's fair.
An average Scott Adkins film is still a damn good action film, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there is good action in there. Yeah. Steve, over to you. Number 5.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Does what it says on the tin. I really like the start of the Tony Jaa breaking into the compound bit.
Yeah.
When it starts going a bit POV, it gets a bit wanky, but The start of it I thought was really good.
Yep, a lot of tough guys in that one, and again, tough guys in I Am Vengeance Retaliation, which is my number 5 pick. So we got Stu Bennett, Vinnie Jones, and what is it? Lee Charles is in there. He's really good. Joe Egan. There's a lot of Greg Burridge. There's a lot of really tough guys in that movie. Good for Bentley Kalu. I enjoyed as well. He's quite comical. He's got character. He does a little bit of singing over the end credits, which is nice. So that's my pick for number 5. Number 4, please, Mike.
My number 4 is Message Man.
Okay, yeah, Indonesian set tale of revenge.
Yeah, I thought the action on this was superb as well. Very, very sort of gory kind of things going on as well. There's a whole bit where the sniper guy comes in. I thought that was brilliantly done. The whole sort of hiring the sniper and the way he communicates with him, I thought was brilliant. Yeah, I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I didn't click with it. I don't remember it very much. I think it's one I have to give another chance to. I think I did enjoy it at the time, but I don't really remember anything about it. It's kind of been and gone. It's turned up on Sky now, so it's getting quite broad exposure. Yeah. If people want to check it out, if you've got Sky. Steve, your number 4.
My number 4 is American Fighter.
Good pick. Yeah, that almost made my list. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, just really enjoyable. Really, not really fun, but it actually had a bit of soul in there as well, especially with
Sean Patrick Flannery, wasn't it?
Flannery.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Coming back as the alcoholic coach to teach him, and it was quite a surprise. I had no idea what it was about or anything like that. Just went straight into it, and I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. My number 4, I'm expecting to hear the word punt. It's Extraction.
Punt.
There we go. So we go on to our number 3. Steve, Steve, go on, number 3.
Hang on, I can't find my number 3. Might not have picked a number 3. Give me one second.
Oh dear. Mike, your number 3.
My number 3 is Legacy of Lies.
Punt.
Okay.
Steve, your number 3.
Skyfire.
Okay.
Justify
your choice, please.
Because I've just found it. Not so much talk, more resilience, should I say? With the father of the girl.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, he's a tough guy.
Yeah, that'll do.
He survives the volcano and hides himself and sets off that charge. I tell you what. Yeah. My number 3 is Cyborg Deadly Machine. With our hero, I can't remember his name, but he's a dab hand with a frying pan.
Yes, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Mike. Your number 2, please.
My number 2 is Extraction.
Okay, no punts, so go ahead, Mike.
No.
So Chris Hemsworth, I think, is really, really good in this. As he sort of, burnt out mercenary. I just thought he was really, really good. That leap off the cliff at the beginning was superb. Whoever did that, however they did that, I thought it was a great bit of filmmaking. So just a really, really good character. And then his opposite guy, the one who's also trying to rescue the kid for his own reasons, proves to be a really decent character as well. So really, really, really enjoyed that film.
Steve, you're number 2.
2099, The Soldier Protocol.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's a good choice. Again, I didn't really think. I never thought about it, but of course, that's the heart of the movie is that guy and his resilience. Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. Like I said, he's breaking out with what I call it, the wheel, is it?
Mm-hmm.
At the end. Obviously, everything he's been through as well. It just, definitely a tough guy on that one.
Very good, yeah. My number 2 is Debt Collectors.
Punt.
Okay. And so we move to our number 1s. Steve, your number 1, please.
I just realised I cocked up, so I put Iron Vengeance Retaliation for this, and I should have punted you earlier on. But
That's okay, Steve. It's all right. Iron Vengeance Retaliation. Do you have any other comments to add?
There's more machismo in that film than anything else I've ever seen, I think. There's that many blokes walking around. Well, like you say, again, you're right with the female bit as well. But I just think it's so much of a ensemble compared to the first one, say, that it just works on every other level as well.
Mm-hmm. Mike, I'm pretty sure I know what your number 1 is, and you probably know what
Collectors.
my number 1 is. Sorry, Debt Collectors.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And mine, we'll talk about these two at the same time. Mine's Legacy of Lies. So Scott Adkins at the top for both of us. You go first.
So Jesse V. Johnson revisiting 2 characters he mistakenly killed off at the end of Debt Collector. French and Sue both met a nasty end. And I think he did the right thing of retconning that ending. So yes, they got shot, but didn't actually die, and got to sort of fight another day. So we have more sort of bigger sort of scenario. They're sort of sent on this mission to pick up 3 sort of Vigs that are outstanding by their boss, Vladimir Kulich. And we also have Marina Sirtis in the mix on this one, which is just the most weirdest casting ever, but absolutely welcome. But yeah, this is great. The partnership between Louis Mandylor and Scott Adkins was superb in the first film. I'm so glad that he realised that it made a bit of a cock up by killing them off in the first one and bringing them back, because they are absolutely superb together.
Yeah, because it wasn't like it was just an incidental kind of killing them off in the first. I mean, they really labour the point with slaughtered cattle imagery and all this sort of stuff. So it was very much that was the intention of the ending. So it was interesting to see how they knew there was no way around it. So they just kind of said, just go with it. If you want to enjoy the film, just go with it.
I mean, there is a great conversation that the characters have, in the middle of the film, about sort of what happened and their experiences afterwards, because they both think the other person's dead for sort of 6 months prior to the film, but they do have this sort of interesting conversation about sort of what happened to them next, which I thought was quite good. Over a bottle of what's that tequila called?
Oh, is it Rooster Rojo?
That's it, Rooster Rojo tequila, which is like if he doesn't put it in every film now, I think he's missing a trick. But it was in Avengement, wasn't it? It was in Avengement, yeah. So it's like Hitchcock had his cameos. Tarantino has his obsession with feet.
And red apples.
And red apples, cigarettes, yeah. So yeah. Please, Jesse, keep putting the Red Rooster in, even if it's just a poster in the background in a scene or something. I think it'd be really cool to keep that going.
Again, Scott Adkins was my choice for Best Tough Guy movie, but it was for Legacy of Lies, specifically because of the cinematography on that film was amazing. For me, I just thought it brought an extra level to the film, took it a bit further. That's why, for me, Legacy of Lies is a better film, or is a greater film than Debt Collectors. They're both very good, and both very different as well. So yeah, Scott Adkins is the top for Mike and I with Legacy of Lies and Debt Collectors. And for Steve, remind me, Steve, it was
Iron Vengeance Retaliation.
Iron Vengeance Retaliation, yes. And that leads probably nicely to Best Action Flick. So, guys, if you've got your lists ready, I will throw it over first to Steve for number 5.
Again, been mentioned earlier on tonight, I went with Rogue.
Okay. Mike?
I went with Skyfire.
Punt.
Punt.
Okay. Number 4, please, Steve.
I put 2099 Dodge Protocol.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, just mentioned.
Mike.
My number 4 is Message Man.
Message Man. Okay. Yeah. Good. Sorry, did I mention my number 5 or did I miss myself?
I think you might have missed yourself.
I missed myself. Sorry, my number 5 was Cyborg Deadly Machine. And my number 4 is Debt Collectors. Number 3, please, Steve.
I mean, list is frozen. Hang on. Jiu-Jitsu. Again,
Okay.
mentioned earlier on.
And Mike?
Mine is Debt Collectors, which we just talked about at length. So, yeah.
And mine was Legacy of Lies. Quick list, this one.
Yep.
Steve, number 2.
I Am Vengeance Retaliation.
That was also my number 2. Mike.
My number 2 was Legacy of Lies.
Okay. So we're in a similar ballpark. Right. So on to number 1. Steve.
Skyfire.
Okay.
Absolute insanity, but loved it.
Yes. I have to agree because that was my number 1 as well. I was showing it to my son the other day. I was showing the sequence where they escape from the volcano in the cable car or the monorail.
Yeah.
And I remember it being ridiculous that they're not strapped down or anything, and they're rocketing down the side of this volcano, and then they suddenly stop and they're absolutely fine. There's no whiplash or anything. But the bit I'd forgotten was that the reason that the carriage stops just before it goes over a cliff is because the other characters come along in their Jeep and sort of wedge it.
Yeah, they
just pull up and just touch it, and that is enough to stop the thing rocketing. It's like that scene is so ridiculous for so many reasons, but it kind of sums up the movie, really. It's absolutely complete nonsense, but boy, is it a ride. I mean, it's an hour and a half. There's no fat on it. It's they set up the first half an hour, sets it all up. It's an island with a volcano that couldn't possibly erupt, but then erupts. And it's handled by Simon West, who's one of the blockbuster film directors from the 90s. Con Air and stuff. He's Tomb Raider, yep. And they just it's really, really good. If anybody is, if you're not shy of subtitles, it's definitely probably one of the best disaster movies of the last few years, I'd say. It's well worth seeing. And the fact that it's Chinese gives it a
confuse it
quality.
with an asylum film. It's definitely not an asylum film.
No, God, no.
Oh.
No. Mike, your comments on Skyfire.
I love Skyfire. I bought it on Blu-ray after we reviewed it.
Yeah, the visuals and the visual effects and everything.
It's
top class.
Top-notch, it's basically Jurassic Park switching out the dinosaurs for an active volcano, and every sort of cliche. It's like I'd watched Dante's Peak with my son about 2 weeks previously, and it's like every sort of cliche you can think of happens. If we can do it, we will. So it just works really well. Really, really enjoyed it.
Excellent. And your number 1?
My number 1 is unfortunately Extraction again. So there you go.
A lot of love for Extraction happening.
Very one-sided, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, not one-sided. Yeah, I mean, Steve, you liked Extraction, didn't you?
I've not seen that yet.
Oh, you haven't? Oh,
No,
Steve.
I know.
Cool.
It'd be interesting to see which side of the fence you fall. I think you'd like it. I mean, I cannot fault the action. I mean, there's some really good action in it. It's there's a couple of real standout moments. I think early in the film, the apartment part where Chris Hemsworth is basically just banging this guy's head against the floor. I think there's a fork involved, isn't there? Like some sort of pitchfork or something going on. The action design is the film's directed by Sam Hargrave, who's got an extensive back history of doing stunts and stunt work and directing and all sorts. But this is his first big, headlining directing feature, and he did you cannot fault the job that he did there. I mean, my problem is more the story and the over familiarity and the maudlinness of some of it, but that aside, the action is very well done, and so that's absolutely fair enough. So our top action picks are Extraction and Skyfire.
Yep.
Now we will move on to something a little bit different. It's our best worst film, or the Dick Emery Award. And Mike, I will ask for your number 5, please.
My number 5 is Widow's Point.
I'm glad you didn't call it Widow's Peak. That was Craig Sheffer in a lighthouse movie.
It is, yeah, and it's very low budget. I know, opinions varied on this one for sure, but I sort of got quite a bit out of it.
So, what was bad about it, and what was good about the badness?
It's one of those films where hauntings happen for haunting's sake.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, really bland in places, but it hints at this sort of bigger picture kind of thing going on, this sort of Lovecraftian element, which was really good. I like some of the haunting elements, the fact that all his food gets soiled and all the water turns to salt water and things, which sort of was sort of more in keeping with the theme of where it was and stuff. But the other bits, which was there's somebody creepy walking behind you, in the other room. It's like, well, who sees that apart from the audience? No one. So are you haunting the audience, or it's bizarre. Anyway, it's a very low budget, but had its moments.
Steve, number 5.
I've only got a number 1 on this one.
Okay, fair enough. My number 5 is Apparition.
Yeah,
it's about an app that tracks down ghosts, basically, or ghosts who are associated to you personally, if I recall correctly.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not the only film to do this. Countdown did something similar, but this sort of app-based horror is a growing trend. But this one had a really good cast, some nice ideas in it, nicely shot. But I just thought it was very silly. Yes,
and it took ages and ages to sort of get to the scary bits, as it were. And then it was all over in a rush. And the other bit in there as well was the whole thing with the surveillance videotapes, which seemed to have recorded everything, with sound and yeah, that's right, because it had that long opening sequence, didn't it, with this kid who had this kid who had been sort of wrongfully sent to this penitentiary place.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Matt Craven? Was the governor?
Know.
Was it Matt Craven? Anyway, because it was all to do with the governor of this prison, which had now closed down, and his son was dating this girl, and his other son had invented this app, as you say, and they end up going back to the prison where the ghost sort of used the videotapes to show her everything that happened to her sort of mother and things like that. But yeah, I thought it was not a bad little film.
Number 4, please, Mike.
My number 4 is Witches of Animatorville.
Okay. Yep.
So this is almost like the budget for this reminds me of a Tom Baker Doctor Who episode. This is sort of like on the level of one of the Earthbound stories from Doctor Who back in sort of Tom Baker / John Pertwee era, and it has its moments. Not many, but it does have its moments overall. So yeah, I thought it's not too bad.
Not bad at all. Didn't make.
Right, I'm losing you a bit, Rich. Okay?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I liked that one as well. I think I never really considered it for this particular category, but I can see why you would, and that's fair enough. There were a couple of performances in this that I really enjoyed, and it was written by our friend Tom Jolliffe. My number 4 is Reborn.
Yeah, not
which
bad.
Was a Carrie-ish kind of tale of a young girl with or young woman with telekinetic abilities, sort of pyrokinetic abilities, and she's trying to establish a relationship with a estranged mother, or the woman who gave her up to.
Played by Barbara Crampton.
Barbara Crampton, and I thought it was quite fun. It's very cliched, very conventional. Have we seen it done before better? Yes, but yeah, it wasn't anything particular.
No, it was pretty off kilter as well. I mean, the whole opening sequence with the in the morgue, I thought that was pretty creepy. Yeah, good fun. Yeah.
Number 3, Mike.
Knuckle Dust.
Okay, that's absolutely fair enough. Is there anything more you want to add?
Okay, I mean, there's elements of this I really do not like, but as I've mentioned when we reviewed it, there comes a point in the film where it got me on board, basically. So the characters started to develop a bit more. The story started to fall into place a bit better. It started joining the dots, and I could get on board with it. But that's after hate watching it for the first half.
Mm-hmm. My number 3 is Proximity. I think we covered a lot of the points earlier. It's just a real mishmash of ideas and sort of. I think the guy who made it was clearly like a passion project, and he wanted to bring all the influences and ideas from the 80s movies that he'd watched growing up and all that sort of stuff, and see what in some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. It's rubbish, but it's good at the same time. So I thought, it's a bad film, but it's definitely got it's a lot. It's quite a reasonable amount to recommend it, especially some of the visuals and production design.
Sure.
Number 2, please, Mike.
My number 2 is Burning Rubber.
Okay, John Travolta
and Michael Madsen slugging it out in some Hicksville sort of Daytona racing track thing. I really like this. I mean, it's just so so run of the mill, but I still enjoyed it. I really did. John Travolta ends up sort of squaring off against his own son, sort of racing for different teams. And Michael Madsen is like the evil guy in the background. I just really liked it for some reason.
That's fair enough. We did a show, we did a special all about John Travolta, didn't we? And we covered quite a few films that are deemed to be very bad John Travolta movies, and I think we enjoyed all of them.
Yeah,
to one extent or another.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say my number 2 is Jiu-Jitsu, because there's a lot of it that just really doesn't work. So there's the Predator, let's say, who's hunting them down and just cannot shoot for toffee. It's just firing these things left, right, and center. It's just ridiculous. Some of the plotting is just a bit of a mess. The whole central concept of the story, all the conceits really don't work in my view. It doesn't fit the whole thing, but it's got a good cast. There's some fun action. You can have a lot of fun with it. I think it's probably one of those films that will benefit from enjoyment with a beverage or two. And so Steve's got a number one. So let's go to Steve.
My number one is Fight of Fury.
And my number one is Fight of Fury as well.
Oh, word.
It doesn't work as an action film, but as a comedy, it's fucking hilarious.
Indeed. Yeah. Guess what? Mine's Fight of Fury.
Excellent. There you go. We've all found one category where we've got the same film for our favourite. That's brilliant. I love that. And what a classic, a modern classic this is. Shunny B's vanity project.
It's the martial arts equivalent of The Room, isn't it? Basically.
Oh my god, yeah. That's the best way of putting it.
I think that's fair enough. I mean, the guys at Bristol Bad Film Club and Crap Film Club really need to get onto this one. I think if they haven't seen it already. So any bad and Rob Hill, I think, bad movie Bible. They all need to get on this. It's unlike any martial arts film you've seen. I think there's plenty of nods to Bruce Lee. There's some weird instructional sequences. There's a very uncomfortable romance. There's
the after school special bit with the daughter.
There's no ending.
MMA fighters.
Yeah.
There's the Chuck Liddell kind of villain in his back garden with all his women around him.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
And there's the other villain who's like in his office with his goons. This is amazing. Check out, if you haven't heard about this film, go back and listen to our episode where we discussed Fight of Fury. There's so much to say about it. So our best worst film, without any, unanimously, is Fight of Fury. Which now we're going to go into different territory now, literally, because it's our what we previously termed the Undiscovered Country Award for national cinema not in the English language. So basically, best foreign language film, let's say. So, Mike, number 5.
Well, I've only got one for this because I misread how you wanted to do this one. But there you go.
Oh, okay. No, sorry. How did you interpret it?
Well, I thought we were looking at sort of ones where we hadn't sort of come across.
Yeah, that was the original intent of the category. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. I couldn't remember what we covered and what we hadn't. So I've just listed out basically every foreign language film I could think of. Steve, did you do anything for this one?
I've got 4 for this one.
4? You got 4? Okay. Okay. Have you listed film titles or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go in on number 5 with because I'm going to do it by film, not by country. I haven't tallied up the countries and stuff. I didn't have time to do that. I'm going for The Tunnel.
Punt.
Okay.
Number 4. That's my number 4. So.
Okay, fair enough. So for my number 4, I'm going to go for, no pun intended, Race Fast from Poland.
I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah. I wasn't expecting much from it, but I thought that, for a Fast and Furious style film, I thought it was really, really good.
My number, Steve, number 3?
Mafia Inc.
Okay, I'll punt that one.
Hello.
And I'm going to go for Mortal.
I may be punting that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we've got number 2, Steve. Or did I said Mortal? Oh, yeah, I said Mortal. Yeah. So you're number 2.
Yeah. Sputnik.
Sputnik. Okay. Good. From Russia. And I'm going to go for Mafia Inc. for my number 2. So, Steve, would you like to talk about Mafia Inc. for a second?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's one of them. I'm not a massive gangster film fan, but I did enjoy it. It was just rolling, timelines and
get a bit muffled, Steve.
So, just going through the workings of the. Was it Canadian, if I remember right?
Yeah, it was the underworld of Montreal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, trying to get this bridge built in Italy and go legitimate, and the downfall caused by not an illegitimate son, but someone brought in as a brother, being betrayed, and it was something like 2.5 hours long. Remember rightly?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically kind of like trying to be a Canadian Godfather, really. But yeah, it was good, enjoyable film.
So as we go into our number ones, Mike, what was your key selection?
My number 1 is from Hungary, and that was To the Wire.
Okay, yeah, because we haven't really done a Hungarian film before. Yeah, I get that. That was quite a bleak sort of. Kind of a dark thriller.
It was, yeah, and it's one we covered when we did the Plagues of Breslau.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it was about a agoraphobic detective who is sort of dragged out of her sort of basement office in order to investigate a series of suicides or apparent suicides, which were in fact very cleverly disguised murders. I just really, really liked it. I like the sort of cinematography and the characters. I thought it was really good. The only other Hungarian film that I've seen is one that me and Dave Wayne covered a couple of years ago called Strangled.
Oh yes,
which was, sort of quite good as well. But
yeah, that
came. It was nice to see Hungary getting a bit of a show this year.
I think also there was a few years ago. Because I think, and somebody will have to forgive me if I'm wrong. I think Joe Esterhaus is Hungarian, and he wrote a political. It's like a sports film, really, for a Hungarian film, which was pretty good. I can't remember what it was called, but I think that was the only Hungarian film that I'd seen prior to this as well. Steve. Number 1.
Again, been mentioned already. Mortal.
Okay, from Norway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've probably said about as much as there is to say about Mortal. But unless you've got any further comments on, it's interesting that one because it's a Norwegian film, but they've shot a lot of it in English, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously the lead character is American, if I remember rightly.
That's right.
But he's the only one, but obviously, the girl he hooks up with does speak English as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it should have got a bit more recognition than it did, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually another one that I think is on Sky now. So if anyone's interested to check it out, I think they can find it on there. My number 1 is Prey. From the Netherlands, Nick Dickmas's film, which we spoke about before, about the lion running around eating people in Amsterdam. There was another film from the Netherlands, which we covered as well, called Kill Mode, which of reinforced my view of having the Netherlands as our winner in this particular category. As far as I was concerned, Kill Mode's really that's interestingly like Mortal. That's another one where they went for the choice to shoot it in English to give it that much broader appeal. Yep. In that case, it was pretty much exclusively, I think, in English. But yeah, Prey. There's an English character who comes in, played by Mark Frost. Was it Mark Frost? Yeah. It's a really good, really entertaining film. You can watch it in the original language version, or you can watch it in a dubbed version as well. It's well worth checking out. And Kill Mode, if you can, I think it might still be on Prime, is also worth a look as well. So our picks are, for me, Prey from the Netherlands, and for Steve, it was Mortal from Norway, and Mike, your pick was
To the Wire.
To the Wire, from also called X the Exploited, from Hungary. Okay, next is the penultimate award. It's the worst film, or this film is just bullshit award. Steve, you're number 5.
The Bay of Silence.
Bay of Silence, okay.
Absolutely boring, ridiculous, stupid pile of shit.
I have to agree. Yep.
Yeah, I quite like that one, to be honest. I didn't mind it. It's quite atmospheric, but yeah, I can completely understand where you're coming from. My number 5 is Open 24 Hours.
Oh, I like that.
I didn't get on with it. If I recall correctly, I mean, forgive me if we go back and check out my review and I said, "Oh, I loved it," but right now I think no, I didn't.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
Now, Mike, I think you've only got a number 1, so I'm going to skip over to Steve for number 4.
Fires of Fury.
Okay, fair enough. We've covered that quite a lot. Yeah. It's interesting that you've picked it in a best and worst category. Mine was the previously mentioned 9/11. Really. Okay. Moving on to number 3 now. Steve?
Knuckle Dust.
Okay. You really didn't like that one, did you?
No, I told you I didn't.
You really didn't like it. I think my number 3 is probably a bit more deserving. It's Vampires of New Orleans.
Oh, you see, this is the thing. My brain had sort of erased that from my memory. You know,
otherwise, not even really about vampires.
Not even about vampires at all. Yeah, it's got one good scene and one good shot, and that's it in the whole thing. So yeah.
Number 2, please, Steve.
Number 2 was Widow's Point.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Again, I think Mike and I liked it a bit more than that.
Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, I do understand what you mean.
Yeah.
My number 2 is The Driver, which was just with Mark Dacascos. Yeah. I expected a lot more from that film, and it was just really dragging, not satisfying at all. But not as bad as the number 1 film, which I will get to in a minute. But Steve, number 1.
Witches of Amityville.
Oh man, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit at all.
You sound like someone just kicked a dog.
Oh, no.
Poor Witches of Amityville.
Well, yeah, I think that was the problem.
Oh yeah, that is poor. Yeah. Right, Mike, you're number 1.
9/11.
9/11. Okay. Is there anything more you want to say than we've already said?
No, really isn't.
No, there isn't really. I think you'll back me up on this choice, though. Number 1, Rogue Warfare.
No. I would for the sequel, but no, I thought it was okay.
Not even with those really long, drawn-out scenes of the villain spouting his ideology and.
Oh yeah, they're pretty bad. What's even worse is that they just repeated in the second film. Yeah.
What literally repeated, or they just do the same thing?
Just more stuff. Yeah, it's the fact that he keeps like taking the guy out of the prison cell and taking him to a location just so he can sort of pontificate and monologue at him, and then takes him back to his cell and go, "There you go." You know, it's like bloody Trump in his rallies. You know, they're just there for like sort of therapeutic sort of purposes. But no, action-wise, I thought it was all right.
Okay, that's fair enough. So the picks for worst film are Rogue Warfare,
9/11,
and 9/11, and Steve.
Witches of Amityville.
Witches of Amityville. Okay. Now we come to our final award, which is a much better. It's a good one. It's the best short film. We watched a lot of really good short films this year, so I'm really interested to hear what you guys have selected as your favourites. Steve, number 5.
Number 5 was Gambit, Play for Keeps.
That was my number 5 as well. Tell us a bit about it.
Again, just I think what they did with the money they had, they did a really good job. Dragging Eric Roberts out of retirement or wherever he's been for the last 10 years helps him.
He's not in retirement. He's permanently working, mate. He never stops. He's not usually got a role as good as this one, though. I think this is
exactly.
This is quite a high-end, like 15-minute fan film. Let's say good visual effects, lots
Very
of
good visual effects.
little Easter eggs and stuff for fans of the X-Men universe. I would say. So yeah, that was a really good one. Mike, your number 5.
My number 5 is Fanatico.
Ah, interesting choice. Okay, that's from the
Monstrous Femme.
Monstrous Femmes. Absolutely right. Yes, very colourful films.
Yeah, it's a homage to Dario Argento, and they do a really good job. I think. Really enjoyed
Was
that.
this the ones with the nuns?
Yeah,
Yeah, because there was that one. Was it like Camp Crystal Lake one as well? Weren't
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, number 4, please.
Number 4 was Dino Feast.
Ah,
which is the
very
little
good. Seth
cartoon
Worley
one.
and his daughter's film
Yeah,
about
yeah.
drawn dinosaurs.
Yep, that was the one. I thought it was really nice, sweet little cartoon.
Very inventive, very playful. Lots of little jokes. Only about 4 minutes long. Well worth seeing.
Yeah.
Find it on YouTube. Mike, your number 4.
My number 4 is The Robbery.
Oh, okay, yeah, but one from a bit for what is it? A few years ago. We covered it this year, but it was a Jim Cummings film from a few years ago. I found out recently that that's. Oh, sorry. Okay.
In fact, no, I've got it's my number 3, so yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about it now. It was part of a series of films he worked on, apparently, and you can find the whole series together as they've edited them together as a feature. And I just can't remember what they're called, but if you look up Jim Cummings on Amazon Prime, I think it comes up, and it actually uses the character from The Robbery as like the poster for the film. So that would be worth checking out. That was a one-shot kind of movie, wasn't it?
It turned out to be one shot, but yeah, it's very funny, I thought.
Yeah, really
very
inventive
inventive
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, please, Steve.
Number 3 was The Robbery was number 3.
Oh, sorry, it was absolutely. That's my bad memory. Mike, number 3.
My number 3 is another one which is kind of set up as a one shot, and that was called Held Op Sock.
Very good one. I think that was from the Netherlands.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very good. About a bunch of sort of well-to-do teenagers who are abducted from a party and held for ransom, and basically have to escape before they're all murdered when their parents pay the ransom. Very well done. Set up to be one shot. Well, after the introduction, it's all set up to be one long shot and works really well.
My number 3 is The Cure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we move on to number 2. Steve.
My number 2 is Never Hike in the Snow. The Friday the 13th
Friday the 13th fan film. Yep. Very good selection. Yep. Very polished, very good fan film. Also featuring Tom Matthews from Jason Lives, reprising his character of Tommy Any more comments about Never Hike in the Snow, Steve or Mike?
I enjoyed it was, definitely well done. It was one of them that normally in fan films, I find the performances are quite poor. A la like the Star Trek one or even Voorhees. But this one, I just thought it was very polished and the performances are really good as well.
Number 2, please, Mike.
We Die Alone.
We Die Alone. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
So this is about the guy who, is a bit of a sort of loner.
Yes.
Sort of makes a bit of a connection with his new neighbour.
Yeah.
Tables get turned kind of thing.
Really like that.
Mm-hmm. My number 2 is The Speed of Time.
That was fun. Yeah.
Very playful, breakneck speed, action comedy, featuring John Morrison. I always get his name confused because he's got his wrestling name and his real name, and John Hennigan. Mm-hmm. So John Hennigan, John Morrison, he's in it. It's about 10 minutes long. Very entertaining. A must see as far as I'm concerned. Number 1, please, Steve.
The Cure.
Yeah.
It was one of the first ones that I watched, and to think that what was the budget, 15 grand or something?
I think they say like 15 or 18 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, to have done that on that kind of budget, it is astounding, to be fair. A couple of bits drag on slightly, and there's the bit with the pilot I wasn't too impressed with, but apart from that,
you can't fault the ambition. I mean, there's so much action in there. It's unbelievable.
It's just relentless. It really is, and they've done a cracking job with what tools they've got.
There's supposed to be another episode, or like a sequel or a continuation of based on a motorcycle chase. I think is supposed to be coming up. I think it was due last year, but it must have been delayed. But keep an eye out for it. I can't remember what it's called, but the subtitle is Another Chapter from the Cure or something like that. So they're definitely trying to work on this and develop this story, which can only be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, your number 1? My
number 1 is Hammer Down.
Ah, yes. Yeah, we watched this just a few weeks ago, didn't we?
I think so, I was just really taken with the characters in this one. The sort of father-daughter dynamic, I thought it worked really well. I could easily see this sort of being developed into a TV series or something. Sort of mismatched adventures of sort of this couple, and the MacGuffin of whatever the hell's in the truck. I just thought it worked really, really well. It was very slick, very, very well done.
My number 1 is Kenobi, a Star Wars fan film, which I just thought was fantastically made. Great ideas, great development of the mythology for the Star Wars universe. Really fantastically executed. To hear more, just go back and listen to me gush on about it in the episode in which it was covered.
Yeah. And that's going way back. That was the beginning of the pandemic almost, wasn't it?
I think it probably was, yeah. So best short films are Kenobi, Star Wars fan film, We Die Alone.
No, Hammer Down.
Hammer Down. So Kenobi, a Star Wars fan film, Hammer Down, and The Cure. Are our best short films. There were so many others that were amazing, and it was very hard to whittle down the list. But the short shot is one of my favourite parts of the show now, because as we'll be talking about one a little later, hopefully. And that is the end of our DTV Awards for 2020.
Yay!
Finally.
Our next review is Blackout: Invasion Earth. An electromagnetic pulse from outer space throws 99% of the world into darkness, leaving a small area of Eastern Europe still intact. A tasked team of special forces is sent into the Dark Zone to try and discover what has happened, but the real answers lie elsewhere. Now, Rich, this is another big budget sci-fi movie from Russia. They do seem to like these. I think it's fair to say that this is visually stunning. It's great to look at, not so great to watch.
Well, in my view, I enjoyed watching it. I really? Didn't have any problem with it whatsoever. In that sense, the Russian sci-fi blockbuster that it is. I mean, there's artillery on display left, right, and centre. It's a big. There's big action set pieces. The film itself is a bit muddled. The concept of it essentially develops into a variation on a zombie movie, which is quite interesting. But it's something we've seen quite a lot of already. So the closest I equate this to is like Redcon 1. So you got like the military up against the zombies. This is the military up against a force that ends up being under sort of a mind control kind of that kind of thing.
It reminded me a bit of Life Force as well, actually.
I think the thing is about this is that the themes have been used in a lot of film. I mean, even something like Invasion Planet Earth, I think there's some similarities. The Signal. Do you remember the sci-fi film where there's this signal that comes out and turns people crazy?
I do remember that one. So, I mean, there's elements of this I do like. For example, the visuals are superb. The futuristic Moscow bits that we see, with the flying cars and things like that.
I could have done without that, to be honest.
It looked like a very clean version of sort of Blade Runner. I thought that was doing it right. Excuse me a minute. But I just found their story itself to be very muddled, as you say. There's an element in there to do with these people who've been turned into psychics. And they've been turned into psychics by a previous alien invasion, which we never hear about, or it's mentioned like once or something. Oh yeah, that was because of that other thing that happened that left all these guys being with psychic abilities, and that's basically all we get of it. But it's so nihilistic as well. The whole thing with the aliens, it has this sort of very nihilistic sort of viewpoint. So,
but even that whole thing about, I don't really want to. I shouldn't say too much because these are all things that are revealed along the way. But the revelations about why it is that the humans can be controlled by the aliens is itself quite derivative. I think there's you could probably go back to stuff like Quatermass and that and say there's similarities with that. The Blade Runner-ish stuff is interesting because it starts out with that kind of stuff, but then doesn't really do any more of it.
It ditches it.
It abandons it, and then it becomes basically it just looking like any other, bleak future. They go to very sort of nondescript, suburban locations, essentially, that just happen to be abandoned. So it's more like Chernobyl. It's like Pripyat in Chernobyl. That's kind of what it reminds you of. There's some interesting action sequences, and obviously the aliens know martial arts. It's a bit like a Japanese alien movies in Godzilla or something. They're all martial arts fighting, and they're edited in quite an interesting way, I suppose. But there's a whole the film has what it seems to be its climax, which takes place on a rooftop. But then there's a whole other section after it, which is basically a really long epilogue.
It's a long epilogue, but it's setting up yet another chapter, isn't it? Basically?
Yes. So I'm not sure. That was it kind of lost me a little bit there because I was thinking they're trying to introduce too much at that stage. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. There was one bit. There was one thing. They introduced two sets of characters, man and a woman, whose relationships develop through the movie. And one couple completely disappears for like half an hour or so. And I kept thinking, are they coming back? What's going on? And then they do. But that was a bit of a distraction because you think, have they forgotten these characters? Because you normally would have them, you touch base with the characters, you check in with them. So that seemed like that could have been done better, I think, rather than making us think, hang on, have you lost control of your story? You've dropped, because I have seen films like that where characters just get dropped and they're never seen of again. But yeah, I like this. It's probably one of the Russian sci-fi films I've enjoyed the most. I mean, they've been getting released quite frequently for many years now, and some of them. There was one called The Interceptor, which was pretty incomprehensible, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
But
we covered that on an earlier show. I think me and Dave Wayne looked at that one.
Okay.
A long time ago.
So
So, I don't know. I thought this was a bit of a mess. It starts in media res, as you know. I hate that, especially since it's like, it doesn't actually take that long to get to that point anyway in the story. So it seemed pretty pointless. But the one bit I really did like was when it had this airplane, this like Concorde kind of airplane flying, and you think it's going to introduce some new characters, but the whole reason it's there is that when the blackout hits, you've got something to crash into the ground. It's just there for visual flair, which I thought was actually quite good. The aliens sort of very manipulative. There's more characters involved. There's the two sets of central characters, but you also got this psychic guy. You've got the female general who's quite integral to it as well, and this alien who's sort of stepping in. I found it a bit muddled, and it span its wheels for quite a while.
It's an interesting counterpoint to Sputnik, because Sputnik's story was so focused and so, grounded. They kept it in one place with like these two characters, really, really focused, and drew it out. And then it gets a bit more, bombastic as, leads towards the end. This film is like spreading the canvas like as big as possible. Like the whole world has been wiped out except for this small part of Russia, or something. Yeah.
Which is funny, isn't it? I suppose every country, is going to sort of center its story on itself. So we're very used to sort of seeing Los Angeles being the epicenter for something, or somewhere in America. But no, all of a sudden, sort of this outskirts of Moscow is the most important part of the planet. All of a sudden, I didn't enjoy it that much. I thought it was a bit. It was way over long for a start, and I think its canvas was way too big for it to sort of give any weight to, really.
Well, especially when you consider that they haven't resolved the story. It's
that's right.
Leading into the next chapter. This interesting. Before we pass judgment on with the scores, I just want to say this has been quite a success in its release. It's already been. If you exclude premium video on demand releases, it was a number one in our DTV chart. It was the number one selling DTV film, and in its second week, it's done even better. It's actually climbed up the official top 100 chart on which we base our DTV chart. It's actually doing really well in the top 100. I think it's like number 4 or 5 or something like that, and it's ahead of Jiu-Jitsu. It's done better than Jiu-Jitsu in its second week. Yeah. So Blackout was out in its second week. Jiu-Jitsu was out in its first week, and it beat a new entry of Jiu-Jitsu. I think that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive, especially with a no-name cast.
Well, exactly.
There's no names to sort of hang it on.
Yeah.
Okay, Rich, what are you going to give the Blackout Invasion Earth?
I'm going to go 7 on this one.
All right, I'm going 5. I think it is visually impressive, but I thought story-wise it wasn't working for me at all. So that is a 5 and a 7 for Blackout Invasion Earth. Our next review is Robot Riot. Awakening with no memories of their former selves, a small group of people find themselves pitted against the latest robot fighting machines while a crazy general watches from his control room. Was this an asylum film or not? I don't think it was it?
No, but I can completely understand why you would say that.
It's not far removed from that sort of budget. I think it does okay with special effects and stuff. But there are some big holes in this film for sure. Let's go to Steve to begin with.
Yeah, reminded me of something like Predators crossed with Robot Jocks in a way. You know, the old 80s. I think it was, yeah. The main characters are okay. Not the best acting in the world, but the general really, really was over the top and pissed me off.
Oh, didn't he just?
Yeah.
He was hammier than a hammy ham. I don't know what to say. You know, it's the hammiest performance we've seen for a while, I think.
Yeah,
it was pure gammon. It really was. Yeah.
Gammon, yeah, that's it.
But I enjoyed it. It was nice. Swift did exactly what it wanted to do. No messing about. And like you say, I thought the effects were actually quite good for the budget. That it worked quite well. Obviously not exactly very detailed, but I think what they did with it was really good.
Yep. Rich?
The same as Steve, Robot Jocks and Predators also came to mind, as well as other films set around hunting ground kind of scenarios, kill mode as well for the robots. It's nothing we haven't seen before. It does initially appear like it's some kind of asylum production, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. I actually found the story and the setup was handled really well, quite intriguing. The characters were quite interesting. There was some surprises. So early on in the film, there's a character gets stabbed, which I was quite taken aback at happening. I didn't expect that. The asylum style robots are pretty good. The smaller ones are better. The spider mechs. I thought they were all pretty good. The observers and stuff. It reminded me, again, we talked about 2099 Social Protocol earlier, that kind of observation room kind of setting was, where they cut back and forth between it. I think it's an interesting film. Well, if you're a sci-fi fan and you're interested in robot, I don't understand the Robot Riot title. I've got to be honest. I don't think that fits it well.
Yeah.
But if you're quite interested in seeing something that's about soldiers, people basically who've been selected for an experiment, let's say, or a test kind of situation. They don't really know what's going on. Then they're gradually working out what it's all about. I think, it's definitely worth seeing. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, I echo your guys' opinions on this one for the most part. I mean, there are some sort of silly bits here. The general, for example, as we talked about, is so over the top. It is unclear as to what the actual agenda is that he's sort of doing. The thing with, you mentioned that sort of stabbing bit at the beginning. That was really, really interesting, but it's not really developed enough. And in fact, that particular character just disappears from the film and is replaced by something similar sort of later on. But it's just not really developed enough, and how that sort of fits in with everything else. But two characters get killed in the most stupid ways possible, and it's almost like forgotten about in a second. But some of the dialogue is actually really good. I actually did enjoy some of the exchanges. Like one of the female characters sort of basically meets one of the is it called Brock or somebody, and she basically sort of says like, oh, you've got like sort of 6 days of rations in your backpack, you got like a day's worth of water, good luck. I just, it had a sort of rhythm to it. I just thought it was really good. So yeah, I was on board with a lot of this. Yeah, the robots themselves not too bad. I wish they'd went I wish they could have afforded the stop motion approach rather than sort of this sort of fake CGI bit. But there you go. But overall, yeah, not bad at all.
So what are you going to score it, Mike?
I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
I will join you on a 6.
I think I'll go 7.
Cool. Okay, 2 6s and a 7 for Robot Riot. Our short shot this week is Burnt. A young couple move into their new house and discover the previous owners have left an old toaster. That's about all I can say about the premise, really. But haunting shenanigans ensue. So this sort of joins a sort of small group of films where, on paper, it sounds like the stupidest idea ever. But actually, the execution helps make what is basically an inanimate object quite sort of scary and generally a threat. So like the drone that we covered, Rich.
Yes.
Ages ago.
Yeah.
It sounds like the most stupidest thing ever, but they executed it really well, and I think they do something similar here. Actually, I quite liked what I saw.
That's
Steve,
a good comparison, I think.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was for a short film. It actually made me kind of care about the characters. A lot of the times, that's one of the things I don't really like about shorts. You don't really get that much character development, but this one, for some reason, it just skips it, and you actually, me personally, actually cared about what happened to them. And there's also quite a couple of nasty bits as well. To be fair.
Oh, the bit where he stands on the plug.
Oh, it's awful. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where the film's got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nearly as bad as the nail in Home Alone.
Yes.
It's awful.
That's really bad. Rich, over to you. What do you think?
Yeah, this exceeded my expectations. It's 11 minutes long. It's one of the first films, I think, from a company called Strain Pictures, which is, and it's written and directed by Danny Morgan. He was a writer and actor. Did a film called Double Date a while back, which has done quite well, I think.
Isn't
he
that
wrote
a vampire
that.
one? I think it's a vampire one.
It might be. I don't know. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it.
I think
I know
I've seen
it's
the trailer for it ages ago.
But this has got ties to like Proportion Productions. So we got Scott Jeffrey and Rebecca Matthews are the producers. I think Scott Jeffrey did Clown Doll, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And it also stars Becca Harani, who's done lots of the Proportion Pictures films. And Scott Chambers is her boyfriend in the movie. They're moving in together, getting a new place. He's kind of the main character, really. But yeah, it's just a perfectly told story, really. I mean, they cover so much ground in 11 minutes. Yeah. And that's including credits. All the sequences are very well handled, including, like you say, the one towards the beginning where he stands on the plug. It's just it's simple but very effective. It's a comical film. It's a film about people being killed by a toaster. So it's a comedy, but it's played completely straight, basically. Yeah. And that's that deadpan approach really works well. There's a whole string of events involving, it's just very creative about how you think of how can you get what can you get this toaster to do. Yeah. And I won't go through them because that spoils all the pleasures of the movie. But obviously it involves things like burning stuff and stuff with the plug, stuff with the cord. It's got a nice little a slice of toast. Yeah, there's a really clever bit with the slice of toast. Very clever. And there's a little coda towards the end, which is quite amusing as well. And I can't recommend this enough. Really, I've watched it twice. I think it's really, really solid.
It is very good indeed. Yeah, we'll put the link in the footnotes as we usually do for the shorts. So please check it out. That is Burnt. Our DTV throwback this week is Julia X. When Julia goes on I need to do this in the right voice. It's it's a shame we don't have any rom-com music. Rom-com trailer music. So let's see if I can read this again. When Julia goes on a date with a stranger she just met on the internet, little did she know that violent torment he'd be putting her through. But then again, the same could be said for the stranger. So this is a film I saw a while ago, and I was quite surprised to see it on Amazon Prime. So I suggested it to you, Rich, as a throwback, and you reacted a bit different to what I expected.
I was like, I can't remember what I said, but it was like, what have you? It was kind of like, what have you? What have you picked? Like, I can't believe you picked this for us. I know you've kind of been through the Spit on Your Grave trilogy, I think, this year.
I have,
which I thought would have dampened your appetite for.
Well,
for
I've seen all 5 of the I Spit on Your Grave films, unfortunately.
But yeah, this is nasty. This is a nasty film.
So the setup for this is, as we said, Julia has gone on this date with Kevin Sorbo. This is what attracted me to the film originally, is the fact that it's Kevin Sorbo, Mr. Hercules himself, playing.
He's a Christian as well.
Playing well against type, but as this sort of serial killer guy who abducts her and sort of tortures her. He brands her with the X, which apparently he brands all his victims with a different letter, and he's up to X, which sort of should tell you a lot. But then you get a certain point in the film where the tables are turned, basically, in amazing fashion. But it's incredibly convoluted because, as we sort of talked about another film, like how the hell did they know to go to that place? It's incredibly.
How did they know? How did they know it was him?
Yeah,
for starters.
How do they know that? Yeah, it was him. Or did they think it was just some sort of misogynistic arsehole they were going to sort of pick up and do, and then it turned out to be something much worse. But anyway, it escalates and escalates and escalates. This is a black comedy, guys. It is purely a black comedy. Yes, it has a nasty streak to it, that's for sure. But Kevin Sorbo's character is brilliant. He's nasty as hell, but he's got this sort of sense of humor that goes with it, which I thought was really good. The bit that's outstanding for me is when Jessica, who's Julia's sister, goes next door and picks up what's the guy's name? The actor. He was really big for a while, wasn't he? He was
Joel David Moore.
Joel David Moore. He was in everything.
He was in Hatchet, I think he was.
He was in the Hatchet films. He was in Bones, the TV series. He turned up in a lot of stuff playing very similar characters. But this bit where he's tied to a chair thinking something sexy and kinky is going to happen, and this poor Kevin Sorbo sat opposite him, sort of tied up with barbed wire and shit, and having this conversation, and it's just hilarious. It's absolutely brilliant. The character he plays grates on you after a while. You think you can't wait to get rid of him. But the beginning of that conversation I thought was superb. I thought it was brilliant. It's a strange film, Rich. It is definitely a strange film.
And they made it in 3D.
Yes, that was the weird thing as well. But it sort of develops into like basically a live action Tom and Jerry cartoon. Not the new kid friendly sort of Tom and Jerry, but the real old school stuff where they used to beat the shit out of each other and wreck the house. It's that kind of thing. And it is nasty, that's for sure. But I really liked it.
It's like you say, it is the blackest of black comedies, to be fair. I mean, the amount of shit that Kevin Sorbo has done to him it's unbelievable. You know, that he's still
crazy. Yeah.
kind of even. Well,
but he's sort of enjoying it.
Conscious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. He's like, yeah, bring it on. I'm loving it. And then the Carpenters thing though, as well with the iPod.
Oh yeah.
They got the most out of that license, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's a crazy film. It's certainly not for everyone. I totally agree.
Yeah, definitely not.
But So what are your thoughts on the film, Rich?
Yeah, well, say apart from, I could tell that it was supposed to be comical in places, but for the most part, it is. I mean, it's got a really unusual, because it was shot in 3D. It's got a very unusual look to quite a few of the scenes, you know, in terms of the foreground and the background and stuff. So you can kind of tell that. So that gives an interesting dynamic. But then at the same time, you think, well, why? Why do they do it in 3D? And then they've got they do all the gimmicky stuff of holding out the hammer, you know, like right in front and, you know, dangling it in front of the audience and stuff. And it did actually get a 3D release here in the UK because it came out on Blu-ray with the 3D version. It was made in 2010, but it came out over here in 2014 on Kaleidoscope, I think. The Joel David Moore turning up was quite a nice surprise. I didn't kind of expect him, but then while I was watching it, I looked at the cover again and spotted another actor's name, which then spoiled it because that actor turns up
in the very final scene.
In the very final scene, so that was a shame because that would have been a really nice surprise if that hadn't been spoiled by me checking the cover or cast list. Kevin Sorbo, I think, was miscast. It's interesting to see him in a role like this. Especially considering he basically only makes Christian movies and that these days, but I don't think he's a strong enough actor to pull it off. I did like the girls who play the actresses who played Julia and Jessica. I thought they were very strong. The stuff with the flashbacks as to why they became the way they are
is
pretty grim stuff. So. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about this as a comedy or whatever, those are definitely not comical. No, those are definitely not comical scenes. There's some interesting production design. So I think, like the girls, there's a bedroom that we see Jessica in this in one of the rooms in the bedroom, I think, and it's very, I think, very eye catching. You know, it's all supposed to be, you know, run down and knackered and that, but there's some color and stuff in there, so I think that's got their say. The fact they attracted some, you know, notable actors into it, but yeah, for the most, I would steer clear of. I mean, this is I'm not against movies like this. You know, Ravage we watched and it's quite engaging and stuff, but this was just I felt this was more like an Uwe Boll kind of Seed kind of grimness or Captivity.
I don't think it was that grim.
No, I mean, I don't know. Is it because of the comic undertone, you think?
No, I didn't like it from the start. I don't know what it was. I mean, I like Saw. You know, it's not. I'm not shy of some of the stuff. I just didn't think it was. I didn't like the way it was going. I think the tables turning thing is quite good, but again, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit tired of, you know, maybe I've seen too many of these kinds of movies done better. But I just thought this was just a bit too sleazy, really. You know, the way the women are presented, it's quite it's a little bit not too sleazy, not as sleazy as again some examples.
There's no actual nudity or anything, is it? You know, it doesn't go that sort of exploitation route.
Not that it doesn't go to that degree. No, it's more about, you know, focusing on their the way they're dressed and stuff like that. But so I mean, I'm quite surprised that you're so enamored of it, Mike. Steve, do you sort of fit some? Are you more with Mike?
I'm in the middle, I'd say.
In the middle,
yeah.
I did like this. I mean, I've watched it twice now. Obviously, you know, I reviewed it a long time ago. It was interesting rewatching it, especially after your comments, Rich, because I hadn't watched it before you'd email me going, "Oh my God, this is appalling." I thought, "Oh, if I, am I sort of looking at this through rose-tinted glasses, maybe?" But no, I still thought it was very good. Yeah,
it's interesting that we've all. It just made me think. It's interesting how we've all got these things that are too much for us, or that we don't like. It's like, I'd say, "Oh, let's watch this film," and you'd be like, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly. No, I'm not watching a film where a dog gets hurt or something like that."
That Russian one.
The Russian one, yeah.
Where they teach the dogs to carry the bombs to
bombs and stuff, and you're like, "No, couldn't possibly." And I'm like, and then I'm watching this, and I'm like, "Mike, I thought you were more sensitive than this."
No, I couldn't watch that. Now, interestingly, one of the other films I suggested was something called Bound to Vengeance, which is a bit different. It sort of starts off at the point where most of these sort of films end, with this girl who's been she's been abducted and abused and all the rest of it, but that's all happened off screen before the film even starts. The film starts with the moment she actually breaks free and gets the better of her captor. And she's about to sort of escape this place when she finds evidence that there are other people like her being held captive. So she uses the guy to sort of go and find the other girls, so which is really good. I thoroughly recommend that one as well, even if we don't end up covering it. Anyway, we don't score the DTV throwbacks, but on that recommendation, or I enjoyed it. Steve kind of enjoyed it. Richard absolutely hated it. But it's available on Prime. We'll put the links in as usual, so check it out or not. And that is the end of our mammoth show. What a way!
Oh Jesus! Can we go to bed now?
What a way to kick off the year. 3.5 hours of recording. I'm sure we'll whittle that down before we sort of pass it on to you guys. But thank you for listening. Thank you for Rich and Steve for joining me at this start of the year.
No problem.
No problem.
We got lots
Happy
more
to do
stuff coming up, I know. So yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Look forward to recording new episodes. So listen in again.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.